Greetings and salutations everyone, and welcome to a video that's maybe a year or so late. Shin Megami Tensei V is the first Shin Megami Tensei V game to be released at this point, and if you don't know what we're doing here, you've probably made a wrong turn. Can you beat Shin Megami Tensei V without using any demons? The rules of this run are simple. At no point are we allowed to use any demons for combat purposes. This obviously means we'll be taking every encounter solo, fighting the fiends of dots with nothing but our laser sword and a dream. This also extends to out-of-battle skills, such as healing spells to supplement our item resources, Istama to prevent encounters, and anything else we've somehow forgotten about. However, demons will be allowed for two uses we can't really turn off. The first is navigators, as the game ties them to your hip at various points of time. These have no combat usage and only result in you being able to find more items on the overworld, something we'll occasionally need to take advantage of. So we're allowing it, mostly because we can't tell them to leave. Second, and more importantly, are demon essences. Once a demon learns their final skill, they will give their essence to you. This allows you, in the Cathedral of Shadows, to consume that essence to learn either their skills or copy their affinities. If we did not make use of this feature, I'm pretty sure the game would be impossible, so we're using it. Also, we'll be playing on hard mode so as to not lose gamer cred.
Let's commit to hard. Let's not be filthy casuals.
I'm not letting anyone fucking call me on that again.
Other than that, no demons under any circumstances. With a comparatively simple set of rules this time, we set the game to hard and wake up in the beginning of Persona 5, where we need to find the Ginza line. We meet up with our cast of characters, Girl Joker, Keisuke from Devil Survivor, Locked-in Chiaki, and Dazai, the only actual character in this film. Once we arrive to school, we realize Nintendo won't allow us to enter in our name because apparently Dick Lancer has a swear in it. Dejected, we go with Richard instead and decide to walk home with everyone through the overworld map of SMT Nocturne. The train is down though, so we have to go through the smallest underpass ever. Unfortunately for us, that underpass sends us to Narnia.
How can this be? A human walks among us.
The angel takes Dazai away, but forgets about us entirely, and when we go after them, we're attacked by demons. So naturally, I pull out my comp and I grab my sword and I turn into my Atma form and... Alright, guess I'll die.
Come with me if you want to live.
Yeah, alright.
I am thou, thou art I.
Wait, why did I just become a magical girl?
We are now one being, a Nahobino. This is the entire reason we will be able to complete the game.
Okay, alright. So, what do we have?
The Nahobino starts with only one move, ZEUS. Thankfully, the daemon is weak to this. Additionally, this fight also gives the game a chance to show off SMP5's new unique mechanic, the Magatsuhi meter. At the end of each of your turns, you accumulate a small amount of meter, and when you're at full, you can expend it to activate powerful unique skills that cost 0 actions. Typically, every single demon in the game has a different Magatsuhi skill based on the demon's race. However, for us, we will only ever have one, a Magatoki critical. Thankfully, it's one of the best ones, as it guarantees critical hits for all allies for the remainder of the turn, even allowing magic attacks to crit, which is normally impossible to do. The Magatsuhi meter persists even between battles, so it's usually a good idea to keep it as high as possible for when you really need it. We don't need any of this right now, however, as it only takes a couple of ZEUS and a basic attack to take this guy down. Following this, we run forward and observe the Netherworld for the first time, a blown out version of Tokyo where demons gather. We go to the nearby ley line to save and heal up.
What the fuck?
Well, you're a peculiar one, aren't you? You may call call me Gustav.
Gustav is this game's shopkeeper, who also gives us the main side quests of the game. You see, the me-men he employed as workers are currently unionizing, so he asks us to drag them back into work. For each one we find, we obtain glory points, and for every 5, Gustav gives us bonus rewards. These bonus rewards can be as simple as healing items, or as powerful as unique, difficult to obtain essences. Gustav also acts as the game's Lady of the Fount, being able to heal you in exchange for Maka at any given ley line. For now, though, we move forward. We have Pixie to join us without our consent as part of the demon negotiation tutorial as usual. Head into the first encounter against a group of slimes and die instantly, I guess. What the fuck?
Yeah, so while other demons usually have unique skills, all demons in the wild, including some bosses, all share the same Magatsui skill as you, or Magatoki Critical. Since critical hits give either side additional actions, this essentially doubles the enemy's turn economy unless we can mitigate it. Thankfully, the guard button exists. Unlike in other games where the guard button just acts as a small defense increase, in this game it also prevents critical hits and instant kills. This means if the enemy gathers Magatsuhi themselves, we either need to end the combat that turn, or, more likely, guard to prevent the combat from ending on their next turn. We use this strategy to not die to the slimes, only to die to a group of Praetors about 3 seconds later because we hadn't actually figured all that out yet.
Oh, hey! You with the long hair! You'll save me!
I am literally just standing here.
You took my only food! Now I'm gonna starve!
Whoa! That's a relief. Seriously, thanks. You really saved me back there. You know, now that I think about it, I totally had the judgment to ask for your help. Okay, never mind then. You deserve thanks anyway.
I hate her.
What? We continue forward only to be dragged into another cutscene where we are introduced to Mom to Sophia, who allows us to fuse demon essences into ourselves, as well as spending glory to obtain miracles. And instantly we are given some great options, including the ability to gain Magatsuhi if we ambush an enemy, the ability to regain 50% HP and MP on level up, as well as skill potentials, which, over time, increase the damage and decrease the cost of skills of that type. Skill potentials in particular are extremely important, as they will determine the direction we can take our build and form strategies. This is especially important now that we unlock Essence Fusion, giving us the ability to put skills from demons onto the Nahobino. We haven't unlocked the ability to change our affinities quite yet, but for now, it's enough for us to grab Agi off of Onmoroki, Bestial Bite off of Praeta, and Dia off of Pixie. With this, we should at least be able to survive for a few more seconds.
Young man, I am detecting the presence of powerful demons ahead.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Oh,
Whoa!
Our first Abscess fight looks a lot tougher than it is. Theoretically, 3 level 7 mandrakes would be able to kill us instantly without any trouble, and they totally could. However, they have a preference towards casting Zeo, which our default affinities give us immunity to. Furthermore, we just took Agi, and even though we only have enough MP to use it a few times, that's still enough to drop one of them. And at that point, any future Zeos will end their turn completely. Thus, we're able to get through this fight with a win on our first try. Defeating an Essence unlocks more miracles for you to purchase from the Cathedral of Shadows, so we're going to be going through all of them, just in case the miracle of beat the game instantly is hiding behind any of these. We already got some good ones out the gate too, like an additional skill slot for the Nahobino, as well as recovery and support potentials. We will need more glory to get any of that though, so we move forward a bit to find some, only to run into a Manazako again.
I was watching you. Oh, you must be pretty tough if you can take out an abscess like that. Oh, I know. Here, I'll give you this. If you want, I can find even more for you.
Young man, this is a challenge run, no demons.
It's a navigator, it doesn't count.
You are going
It
to
was
insert
already
them
discussed in the
semantics
opening
police.
segment. Navigators
Alright, I'm gonna go find more stuff.
So after we meet up with Keisuke, we head towards Tokyo Tower in order to try and save Dazai, while breaking every single one of our teeth on the silver apple. Only to find our favorite foe Pixie just around the corner who needs us to find her boyfriend. Thus, we obtain our first true side quest, get a Manazako laid. This also adds Manazako as our first navigator. While navigators cannot be used in battle, they instead hang out around the Nahobino, telling you where to find special items and stuff. As we said before, since we cannot yet remove Manazako from our party, we are forced to allow navigators as an exception to the rule. However, this does balance itself out due to the fact that we have to spend the entire opening segment of the game listening to
You want some? Well, do you want some? Well,
Speaking of side quests, earlier we met a group of Preta who wanted us to bring back their friend. He's stuck simping in a corner for this Abscesses, but we can still get the food for him and turn in the quest. Unfortunately, they immediately turn around and attack us after doing so, which causes us to die instantly. So we turned around, grinded up full Magatsuhi, came back with an extra Firestone, and killed them instantly right back. This goes to show just how powerful a Magatoki critical is. Allowing magic attacks to crit means that we can stack critical bonus with weakness bonus for a 2.25 times multiplier. This makes our Firestones go from dealing around 18 damage on a weak hit to around 30 damage on a weak critical hit, giving us more than enough damage to take all 6 down at once. After this, we head back to the Simp Cave to receive a side quest from Abscesses. This is our first of many side quests that have 2 ways to resolve it. Abscesses will tell you that a Leon Sheed is causing her and her subscribers trouble, and asks you to kill her. However, whenever you speak to Leon Sheed, she tells us that Abscesses needs to stop seducing weak demons and turning them into servants, and asks us to kill her instead. These 2 side quests obviously cannot be completed together, so we are forced to choose. If we side with Abscesses, we have to fight Leon Sheed and her Ippon Datara friend, and will receive 2 health incenses as a reward. If we side with Leon Sheed instead, Abscesses fights us alongside 3 Agathion, and we get 2 stamina incenses instead. Also, either girl will join your party afterwards, but who cares? Considering Abscesses is a bit easier of a fight, we recommend siding with Leon Sheed, but we'll have to reach Leon Sheed first, and we are nowhere near her yet. Cresting this hill, we come across 2 different Abscesses. The first on our right is against the Mermaid. The Mermaid is weak to ZEUS, so initially we assumed she'd be easy. Unfortunately, our meager 30 damage per hit barely dents her health, so that doesn't account for much. On top of that, she packs Marin Karen, and while that is not the guaranteed stun lock as it is in the other games, it's still not something we want to get hit by. And to top it all off...
Strong.
Oh, I like that skill.
I don't.
Yeah, let's hold off on that for now.
Anyway, moving forward, we started moving towards the other Abscesses, as well as Tokyo Tower and whatever demon is supposedly hiding up there. But along the way, we decided to stop back in the Cathedral of Shadows because Sophia said she has something for us.
Oh no!
Those who carry the menorah beckon the avatars of death.
So along the main path, we come across a treasure chest that contains...
Oh, what?
2 demons that rudely interrupt us, I guess. Once that's finished, we receive the first of 10 Aogami essences. These essences are special rare essences that only can be found in specific locations, usually containing unique skills for the Nahobino. And it makes a strong first impression with Aramasa, a single target physical skill which hits for 20 power 8 times. This makes it an effective power 160 move, which could stay relevant all the way through to the mid and late game. Many of the Nahobino exclusive skills are extremely powerful options, but that also makes them just as valuable. Unlike most essences, which can be farmed by recruiting and leveling up a demon, these skills are a limited commodity, so we don't want to take them reckless.
How is this?
Like that. Don't do that. Anyway, we get a quest from this mandrake that says a bunch of Azumi are hogging the water at this spring. This is as simple as jumping down, killing 5 weak enemies, then going back. It's nothing special. What is special, however, is this abscess in the corner, containing 2 Sudama. This is a significantly easier fight than the mermaid on account of them not having a special move. However, they do have force attacks, and we have not yet unlocked the ability to change our affinities. Spam one of them down with Agi, then, if you want to play things safe, you can just tap it in by using Agi, then guarding. This unlocks one of the most important miracles of the entire run. Magatsuhi Wellspring. Once obtained for admittedly a steep price of 150 glory, we regain around 6% of our maximum HP and 2% of our maximum MP at the start of any turn we begin with full Magatsuhi. While this might not seem like a lot, this adds up quickly over time, giving us a consistent sustain we can rely on. Of course, using a Mogatoki critical is also extremely useful for clutching out damage in some fights, so this gives us a pro and a con to weigh against during fights. But health regen is something you can never turn down in a solo run. The other miracles in this pack are pretty useful as well. Vengeful Opportunist charges the Magatsuhi gauge by 3% whenever you guard, Fell Swoop charges it by 1% whenever we strike a weakness or get a crit, Counter Incentive raises it by 3% whenever we get hit by an attack we resist, and Incentive Null charges it by 10% whenever we null, drain, or repel an attack, and Divine Garrison is also here. Regardless, this gives us some extremely powerful options to start working towards, so start saving. And since miracles seem to be good for us, let's try tackle the mermaid fight again.
Do something else other than attacking Jesus.
Fucking hate this fight.
Never mind, let's go to Tokyo Tower instead. So, after a quick flashback to Lucifer defeating Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne and gloating about it, we're immediately thrust into this game's first major boss fight against the Xenomorph Queen. Let's see how that goes.
We are losing this fight.
Don't you mean winning this fight? Nah, we have to fish for weaknesses too.
Yeah, go for Zeo.
Well, we know it's apparently a fire-breathing demon. Yep.
Cool.
This brings us to the first major example of a mechanic that basically defines the entirety of Shin Megami Tensei V, level scaling. See, unlike most SMT games that have your damage mostly be a factor of your own stats, in SMT 5, your level also plays a factor in your damage. It's so aggressive that if you're 5 levels beneath your target, it feels like you're barely scraping the enemy. But if you're 5 levels higher than the target, they barely stand a chance unless they have like 4 press turns or something. The difference between being 8 levels beneath a boss and 4 levels beneath a boss is roughly 30% extra damage. I say this to admit a mistake to you. After making several attempts at defeating the Hydra, we figured it wasn't happening. The combination of Fire Breath for 1 to 2 hits of fire damage and the potential for medium fizz or dark damage, with the dark damage also being able to inflict poison, was simply too much for us to deal with. Especially because we still cannot change our goddamned affinities. As such, we decided to grind. Hard. 7 levels hard. Going from 2 levels lower to 5 levels higher changed the fight dynamics significantly, and at this point the Hydra wasn't even able to touch us. We took our levels out for a test drive against the mermaid, as well as resolving that Apsaris lay on Sheed quest by murdering Apsaris in front of all of her OnlyFans, and neither of them were even worth talking about. Defeating a mermaid finally gave us Divine Amalgamation, a miracle which allows us to change our fucking affinities, thank Christ. We used this alongside a Daemon essence we found on the random cliff to swap our affinities to resist fire and no dark. Sure, we're weak to electric and light now,
But just look at the power I've gained.
With this, we resist the Hydra's strongest attacks, completely remove the possibility of poison, and our 7 levels straight up reduce the damage of the Hydra's attacks by 25%, which means his physical attacks, i.e. the only thing that could potentially hurt us, barely scrape our paint. As such, the Hydra goes down in our second attempt against him.
Having defeated the Hydra, we meet Goku.
Hey, it's me, Goku!
Who gives us the ability to instant transmission back to the last save point we were at, as well as showing us the way to 3 new Abscess locations. The first one is Nippon Dantara, who takes the strategy of hitting us really hard and screaming. He's weak to light and poison, so we can definitely make a strategy around that, but we decided to explore a bit more to maybe find a demon we could farm for physical resistance. Along the way, we came across an entirely separate Abscess consisting of 3 Leonchid, who mostly cast Mudo spells. Since we still had Damon's affinities, this fight was completely trivial. Most of the miracles they provide are garbage, but Art of Essences unlocks additional skills for us when we use Essence to learn skills. Climbing up the highest mountain, we meet Long Gaming, who requests us to defeat the 4 gods from Digital Devil Saga 1. Each of them are extremely powerful. Huang Long even directly tells us to put this side quest off for now, so that's what we're gonna do. Our next nightmare is against 2 Shisha who make up an abscess we found along the way. A quick respec to grab electric immunity using Agathion's essence while picking up Agi burns down the Shisha in no time. Destroying this abscess unlocks physical and almighty mastery, allowing us to increase our affinities towards 2 of the best elements in the game. Heading deeper into Tokyo, we're told that the angels are keeping Dazai at the Diet building. But along the way, we discover one of the few Aogami essences we really can't use, Aogami Type 2. Its unique move, Miracle Water, is usually pretty good, however its higher MP cost makes Dia consistently more useful. The angels request us to take out an Eligor who is flanked on both sides by Andras. The Andras have Zan and Sukukaja, and the Eligor has Miragi and Graham Slice. All of them are weak to electric, but all of them are at our level, which means we're going to definitely need a different strategy to have any hope of not folding within the first 2 turns. Speaking of which, a few more levels than we had previously ended up being more than enough for us to take out the Ipondatara we were struggling with using a combination of poison and light items. Now sitting comfortably at level 25, we decided that now was a good time to finally make a mistake.
So, the light of the menorahs has brought us together.
In addition to the Mitama DLC, we also purchased the Fiend DLC, adding additional fights against Nocturne's fiends. First of which, of course, is none other than Matador. Just like his original appearance, Matador specializes in hard-hitting physical attacks combined with a splash of force damage. While physical mitigation is frustratingly uncommon this early in the game, we can at least take force immunity as early as level 17 off of Sudama's essence. This does not make the fight trivial, mind you, because he still opens with Red Capote, which maximizes his evasion and accuracy. Thankfully, this isn't Nocturne. This version of Matador is given a weakness to electricity, meaning we don't have to rely on Omogatoki critical to get extra press turns this time. Additionally, SMT5 opted to make buffs and debuffs work similarly to the Persona games. This means that Matador's Red Capote only gives him his godlike evasion for 3 turns, allowing us to go in and hit him hard on the 4th. Force immunity is as useful as ever, as he usually goes for Mizan no matter how many times it ends his turn. Unfortunately, while it seems like this fight is possible, Matador is still fairly prone to critting your face in, which isn't helped by the fact that after all our attempts at this point, we still haven't seen Andalusia, Charge, or Maracunda yet. So, for the time being, we elected to save the force immunity for later, and press on for now.
Along the way back to the Eligor, we decided to tackle a quest for Shikioji, who proceeded to thank us by trying to murder us. His combination of Makajam and Mudo proved a bit stronger than we felt comfortable taking right now, so we decided to take force resistance off of Sandman and tackle the Eligor fight again. This time, with full Makatsuhi and a couple of Elec items, things went much better. We did get hit by a nasty crit early on, which made us cut things extremely close, but with Dia now healing 61 and some lucky damage rolls, we were able to barely take down the Andras, and once they go down, Eligor isn't much of a threat at all. Afterwards, we spent literally 40 minutes looking for Gustav's little memeing guys, because the game loves to stick them to just the most whack-ass places you've ever seen, before finally approaching the Diet building.
Bethel's reinforcements, I presume?
Mommy!
Bro, what the fuck?
Nuwa is a fairly basic fight for the most part, packing Mazio and Zanma as her basic attacks. However, every now and again, she'll summon the Mudmen in order to use Sacrifice of Clay, a heavy force attack that debuffs attack and defense by 1 stage for 3 turns. On the plus side, we still resist force from the Eligor and Andras fight, but on the downside, Sandman's affinities make us weak to electric, which is enough for her to pretty easily take a win off us. So it looks like we'll be needing Sudama's essence after all. Thankfully, this is enough to completely wash the fight. With Zanma and Sacrifice of Clay shut down, she has a 50% chance every time she uses a move to lose her entire turn. Speaking of, this is about when we realize how a Mogatoki critical works when used by the enemy. See, after gathering Magatsuhi, most enemies in scripted fights, whether they're Abscess fights or bosses, are coded to use a specific move afterwards. If you know what that move is going to be, you can plan around it. For example, in Nuwa's case, after charging Magatsuhi, she will always go for Sacrifice of Clay. Once you know that, we don't have to worry about that next turn. She's just going to swing into us with a move that we shut down with our affinities. This allows us to simply keep spamming Agi at her for weak hits, or Kuna to keep her defenses down, and building up our own Mogatoki critical to push her lower and lower. We don't need to kill her, only drop her to 50%, but with Force Immunity, doing so is completely trivial. At which point, the fight is interrupted by, oh, it's Raido!
Oh, hey, Raido.
My name is not Raido, it's Shohei Yakumo.
Oh, like Shohei Namumi.
From Raido.
Please stop.
So Nuwa and Raido don't tell us much of anything, but Nuwa does mention how he's her other half, which, like, nice. But they basically just tell us to keep getting stronger and keep trying to change Tokyo. Pretty standard Nocturne stuff by anyone's standards. We'll see in about 40 hours. So the gang is back together, and we finally find Ryuji and Keisuke shows back up after having done nothing for the entire game so far. At which point, we receive some exposition.
Coffee milk is a drink made by mixing coffee syrup or coffee extract and milk together in a manner similar to chocolate milk.
No the fuck.
At which point, we meet our next main character, Seihori Itsukishima, who is definitely not one bullying incident from asking us not to show up tomorrow. And if that joke seems in poor taste to you, it's literally what happens about 30 minutes from now. Sahori gets possessed by a demon and tries to murder everyone at school. But that 30 minutes from now. 30 minutes earlier, we get attacked by a random group of demons at our local temple. These demons don't really matter, the Anzu are weak to force, and the Lamia take nearly as much damage from force besides. A singular ice gem is enough to instantly kill one of the Lamias, and force spam along with proper healing and guarding is enough to take down the Anzu. Unfortunately, that's not the real fight, as we're immediately forced to contend with our local eldritch horror, Lahmu. Thankfully, in this instance, he's completely pathetic. He has no skills besides Mudo, and is weak to force and light. Throw whatever items you have on hand at him and heal up, and you can handle this fight even if you didn't see it coming.
Returning to the main timeline, we have to make our way through the high school in order to reach Sahori. We use Jack-o'-lantern's essence to upgrade Agi to Agilao and drop Aramasa for Tarunda. Within the school, Sahori is currently in the wrong kind of game, so we have to save her before this video gets age restricted. For any scripted fights, if it's an enemy you've seen before, kill it with its weakness. If it's a new enemy, spyglass it, probably die, then come in and kill it with its weakness. Couple flights of stairs later, we see Keisuke with his fucking lion, I guess, and he tells us that he and Dazai are going to keep looking for students to save off screen while we do all the visible work. After around an hour and a half of fighting and dying and fighting and backtracking and healing and fighting, we finally make our way to Sahori, who then makes an eldritch pact to kill her high school bullies and then regrets it immediately as she is dragged to another dimension.
Okay,
Please,
okay.
Take me with you. I want to save Sahori too.
Can you fight in any capacity?
Tao is actually extremely useful here because she'll full heal your party after every...
Wait, what?
After returning with Wirt's Pixie, we decided to head into a new area to...
Ah, sire. Are you
get
pursuing the
thrown into
kidnapped students as
cutscene
well?
hell, I guess. So in addition to saving Sahori, we're now also being tasked with finding a bunch more students. While searching the area, we find Sakanagi, a 230 base power physical almighty attack. This makes it stronger than any heavy damage skill in the game, and almost as strong as some severe damage skills. Yeah, Nahobino exclusive skills blow Demi-Fiend's exclusive skills right out of the water. Anyway, like I was saying, Tao will heal you after every fight you get in here, so now would probably actually be a very good time to do any grinding that you might need, as healing after every battle is no longer a concern. But that's not important right now. Who needs to save students when it's abscess time, baby? This one consists of 2 Jack Frosts that like to use their unique move, Jack Bufula, which applies Racunda on hit. However, since we're around the same level, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. What do you mean we're weak to ice? 1 mermaid essence later to grab Ice Null, and we completely shut this fight down. This abscess unlocks Mastery 2 for all basic elements, so it's definitely worth grabbing. After we save the final student, we receive information on Lahmu and Sahori's whereabouts, so we track them further into the warehouse district, only to find this angel lady named Abdiel, who tells Dazai that if he wants to be this game's law rep, he's gonna need to get his shit together and stop being such a little bitch. We continue making our way deeper into Shinegawa's warehouses, finding various side quests, Jack Frosts, and even some Mimen. Look, Mimen.
What the f are you doing there? Get down from there! You're going to hurt yourself!
And hidden within this maze of crates lies an abscess containing 2 Makami and 2 Feng Huang. All of them are weak to dark, and we had fire immunity from our essence, so you can basically burn this one down using dark shards and a bit of luck. I recommend hitting one of the Makamis with a dark gem so he dies sooner than the other. That way, you will reduce the amount of press turns they receive a bit sooner. Once one goes down, you can start whittling the rest down while keeping yourself alive with Dia or any other healing items. The Feng Huang will help end turns by casting Agilao on you, so with time and effort this shouldn't be an issue. The rewards for this one are pretty solid as well. Merchant's Hospitality reduces the costs of all items in Gustav's shop by 25%, and Magatsuhi Dispersion will end the enemy's Mogotoki critical effect if they attack into a guard or an element that you null, or even better. This allows us to more easily control the enemy's turns and makes Mogotoki critical not a complete death sentence for us. However, nothing we have would prepare us for what we were about to fight next.
Loup-garou is this game's vibe check for Demonless, especially if you want to keep yourself low level. More than any boss previous, Loop's strategy flows extremely well into itself. He's packing Damascus Claw and Axle Claw, random target moves which hits 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 times respectively, along with Fang Breaker, a fairly strong physical attack that Tarudas you on hit for 3 turns, something he'll try to keep up for the entire fight. To help with this, he also has Critical Aura, which makes the next physical attack he uses have 100% accuracy as well as crit chance. And as if all that shit wasn't enough, he also has Souffle de Clair, the strongest attack in the game. In terms of Demonless, Loup-garou is very similar to Matador from SMT Nocturne. Both of them have extremely strong physical options as well as ways to boost them, while also sporting a decently hard-hitting magical option. In Nocturne, the best strategy to deal with Matador was to equip Null Force so that he can't cast Mazan on you. In SMT5, doing that will get you killed. Loop only goes for Souffle de Clair when he charges Magatsuhi. Beyond that, he is entirely a physical attacker. We tried this for hours and got absolutely nowhere. We caved and leveled up to 36, 8 levels higher than Loup-garou, and the largest handicap we ever had on any boss in the game, and still got nowhere. We eventually picked up physical resistance off of Oni, since he was one of 2 available Fizz options, electing to use Elect Dampeners to temporarily block Souffle de Clair for as long as possible, before moving to guard strats. And even still we got nowhere. But after around 4 hours of brainstorming, we came up with an idea. We came in with full Magatsuhi for the regen and kept physical resistance from Oni. Since Loop only goes for his electric move alongside a Mogotoki critical, we can know when it's coming and either guard or use an electric dampener to negate our electric weakness. But the big boost to the strategy was Rakukaja. Since we have Ice Breath as well as Ice and Light items, we have plenty of means to gain that additional action off him, which we use to maintain our buffs. Given Damascus Claw is still dealing 40 to 60 damage depending upon how much Rakukaja we have active, so physical resistance was still necessary here, but the big thing about Fizz Resist that we didn't realize before was that it also negates random crits. This makes Loup-garou remarkably more consistent, as we no longer have to worry about randomly getting screwed. This doesn't make it free though. Critical Aura and Omagatoki Critical can still be used to get crits anyway, so if he uses either of those, we need some way to dodge the upcoming attack, or else he'll do too much damage, even in spite of the level gap and +2 to defense. Guarding will mitigate the crits, but he'll still do a very large amount of damage to us, which can put us in a bad position if it happens at the wrong time and forces us to decide between healing and keeping buffs active. But after a significant amount of effort, we finally managed to put this mad dog down. Up next, we do a quick side quest and murder King Frost, who is thankfully significantly easier. His physical attacks are much less threatening, and while he can hit very hard with ice attacks, especially under a Omagatoki Critical, we also obtained his own essence from Gustav by finding 60 Mimin, which allowed us to absorb ice. We used King Frost to beat King Frost without any real issue. Keisuke calls and tells us how Lahmu is trying to become a Nahobino with Sayori in order to recreate the world, which, unbeknownst to him, is literally the entire plot of the game. But before we do that, me and Zephyr both realized that we'd completely forgotten about Matador.
I keep having this nagging feeling that I've forgotten something.
Hey, if you forgot it, it probably wasn't all that important.
Yeah, I guess.
We literally don't even change off of King Frost's affinities, despite being able to grab physical resistance, and we came back to find Matador, now 12 levels behind us, doing roughly 10 damage per hit. Remember how we said level matters a lot in this game? Yeah, whoops. On the plus side, beating him unlocks Daisojo, and while we do still outlevel him a bit, this fight is significantly more challenging for one main reason.
Suck.
Meditation is still as fun to fight against as it was in Nocturne, draining a little over 50 HP and MP each time he uses it. Thankfully, Daisojo has seen absolutely nothing but nerfs besides. Mahamon and Mamudoon have been nerfed down to Mahama and Mamudo, Preach now only inflicts status effects and no longer deals damage, he now has a fire weakness, which makes the Aguilar we still have extremely funny. And he's still unable to do anything about buffs or debuffs, which, fun bonus Nocturne fact, he's one of the only two fiends that neither has Dekaja or Dekunda, and at least Pale Rider compensates by having minions with Debilitate. Unfortunately, meditation is kind of enough at this point, since all skills consume MP in this game, and if he decides to spam meditation, we kind of lose all of our options pretty quickly. We probably could have taken this one with a bit more items, but we decide to table it for now. Instead, we tackle a nearby abscess containing one singular basilisk. He has nothing but physical attacks and a poison-inflicting move, and poison does damage based on basilisk's level somehow, and also lowers your attack while active. Since we needed a poison-resisting essence, we decided to be a little silly and equip Slime of all things. Miraculously, this wasn't us fucking around. Well, okay, not entirely. But Slime is weak to all elements except Fizz and Dark, and also resists poison. This makes us neutral or better to everything Basilisk can throw at us. Even without actual Fizz resistance, being 4 levels above Basilisk makes his basic attack only do around 35, and Crusher Onslaught does 56 on block. With poison resistance, we're able to slowly tap this fight in with Zionga, which gets us Mastery 2 for healing, support, and ailment skills, along with our 6th skill slot after all this time. At which point, Bjorn Makul jumps out of fucking nowhere and Dantes us in a single fucking turn.
Come on!
I mean, we can always get it back.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure with... Oh! His defense down.
That was what were we supposed to do about that?
Finn is a bastard fight. You literally need physical resistance just for this fight. And not just to prevent you from dying to crits. Finn's unique attack, which I can't pronounce, so I'm just calling it by its translated name, Son of Waves, does 127 damage on resist.
Oh god. What the fuck?
If we did not resist Fizz, this would kill us outright without crits, which I feel the need to mention because it does 25% additional damage on a crit. And that's just his unique. He also has Dark Sword, an effective 180 base power attack with 30% chance to mute, and Pierce Armor, which, while weak, inflicts Verkunda on hit. And he has Tarukaja, which he will use to sit on +1 for the entire fight. We panic level 4 times, which cut the damage of waves in half, but that didn't save us from Pierce Armor. We simply couldn't balance between him nerfing our defenses and healing off the damage he was doing. That combined with the chance he had to mute us proved simply too much, even with the obscene level gap we made. But that was when we realized an advantage we had. See, we uploaded this entire run as a video series a few years back, and the video where we first attempted Finn, we received a recommendation to go find the essence for Aogami Type 4. For within Aogami Type 4 lay a skill we would keep for months to come.
Ruinous Thunder!
Ruinous Thunder costs the same amount of MP as Zeonga and does 25% more damage. This combined with the fact that Finn is weak to electric allows us to hit him like a train car. This alongside an upgrade from Dia to Diorama allows us to all but completely stonewall Finn, as we are able to heal off even the most brutal of turns. It still comes fairly close, but we managed to take him down right as we hit 1 MP.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Did it.
It is at this moment that Tao decides to intervene and stop us from fighting, after which Finn apologizes and kindly fucks off, allowing us to gain access to the rest of Shinegawa, while also recommending that we stop by the fairy village where some of the abducted students are being protected. Along the way, we find an abscess full of level 35 Baphomets, who all die to a bit of light shard spam, unlocking invigorating defense, allowing us to regain MP by guarding, and finally giving us a means of restoring MP. Upon reaching the fairy village, we reunite with the girl Joker and Keisuke, who continue to be as useful as Pinello from Final Fantasy XII, but direct us to Oberon, who gives us a fetch quest to go get 3 golden apples from Idun. But enough about that, it's abscess time. Whenever you get close to an abscess, it spawns a bunch of enemies for you to have to dodge. You've seen this before already, but this one spawns Cyranups, who have ranged weapons.
Oh god, oh fuck!
Wow, they can aggro from range.
We were shot at!
Anyways, Thoth is interesting because he's one of the first abscess fights with access to Almighty, while also being the first one to pack a healing skill. And this is some hard type level healing too. Like, he heals for over 400 per diorama. Between having to maintain buffs and debuffs in order for Megiddo to not flatten us, and also having to maintain healing ourselves, we just couldn't blast through his absurd healing in time before having our balls rocked to next Tuesday. As a result, we decided to hold off for now and actually find Idun's apples, which Oberon rewards us for with 12,000 Maka. And Dazai rewards us with his severe injuries. Apparently he found where Sahori was taken, but couldn't save her, so it falls to the guy who looks like a Power Ranger. Thus we run down into the garbage dump, watch as Sahori gets digital devil saga'd, and have to refight Lahmu, who unfortunately actually has a stat block this time. Lahmu's first phase sees him sprout 6 tentacles, all of which have their own health bar and must be killed before Lahmu himself can be damaged. Each of them has around 800 HP and are weak to force and light. Thankfully, Lahmu himself still only gets 2 press turns, but unfortunately sports decent elemental coverage this time around through Bufula, Zeonga, and Mudo. However, his worst attack by far is his unique skill, Babylon Curse. While it's only weak almighty damage, it also inflicts Mud, a unique status effect which is prioritized over all others and causes you to lose 1 press turn at the start of each of your turns. It lasts for about 2 turns, which means that if he hits us with this, he gets free reign to wail on us for the next 2 turns without us being able to respond. To make matters worse, it also has a secret hidden effect, where it fully heals all of the tentacles to their maximum amount of health. This means that we need to be able to deal 800 damage to a tentacle over the span of 3 turns, while also making sure we heal away any damage we take ourselves. Needless to say, when shards are dealing under 80 and Mazanma can barely crack even 100 damage, we've kind of hit a brick wall. After a considerable amount of testing and brain think, we finally managed to come up with a solution. For our skills, we kept Ruinous Thunder and Sakanagi as they're 2 of our strongest options at this time. However, we also grabbed Mizanma for group target force damage and picked up Pierce Armor for a Rakunda option. Finally, we put on Fornius' Essence, which gives us Ice Absorb and Dark Null. This did make us weak to electric, however, but we realize he usually follows up Zionga with Mudo, cancelling the extra press turns he receives from hitting our weakness, and then follows that turn with Bafula to heal us. So really, our elect weakness can be ignored. This doesn't make the fight easy though. We still have to actually get rid of the tentacles, which takes some time for us to be able to do while also dealing with mud. However, this is the first time we would benefit from a mechanic in SMT5 that, while we wouldn't recognize it truly for a while, would save our lives in this fight. And we have dubbed it the Law of Diminishing Returns.
While the math on SMT5 is notoriously undocumented, the general gist is that every time you are afflicted with a status, the next time something tries to inflict that same status, the odds they will succeed are reduced. Thus, while the first Babylon curse in this fight is almost guaranteed to apply mud, every time after, there's a steadily increasing chance we'll be able to dodge the status. This means as the fight goes on, we'll slowly be able to gain more turns after the tentacles get healed. So while it takes us a fairly large amount of time and debuffing one of the tentacles down to -2 to be able to take out the first one, the rest go down without much trouble afterwards. From there, Lahmu's base body only has 350 HP, and begins to prioritize Mudo above Bufula and Zionga. So once the tentacles go down, we can tap this fight in without any trouble.
What the hell is that? I didn't sign up for that!
Well, you see, Robin, when a boy and a girl love each other so much...
And everything about Lahmu just got upgraded. Lahmu practically reverses his affinities, going from fire resistance and a weakness to force and light, to resisting force, neutral to light, and weak to fire. And his attacks have also been upgraded, swapping Mudo in charge, which only affected his basic attack, for Mudun and Purple Smoke, which does more damage if we're confused. Something very possible considering he also picks up Tentarafu. Not all is lost, however, since he keeps Bufula and swaps Zionga for Mazionga, which is actually a bit weaker. Plus, his unique attack is now a bit less debilitating. Silt of Ruin does more damage than Babylon Curse, but it only debuffs our evasion and accuracy by 1, rather than causing us to skip 2 turns. Sadly, this does mean we can't eventually ignore it, but the combination of all of our resistances allow us to still generally control the fight. We use fire shards to slowly get his defenses down to -2 before moving in with fire gems, which still do respectable damage against a debuffed target. His Omagatoki critical combo is Mazionga into Tentarafu, so if you use this strategy, make sure you guard that, but slowly and surely, we're able to take down the Seaman Demon on our first attempt. After some brief attempts at Toth again, we found Belphegor sitting on top of a mountain, which was part of a quest we forgot we accepted. Belphegor is weak to fire and light, and resists damn near everything else in existence. However, King Frost's essence gives us Absorb Ice and Null Dark, which covers everything he could potentially do outside of his basic attack and Marin Karen. Of course, that doesn't make this fight easy, since his basic attack still chips us for around a quarter of our HP, but with Agilao to hit his weakness and Rakukaja to keep our buffs up, we beat this in a couple of attempts. I mentioned this specifically because this unlocks the ability to fuse Belphegor, which can be done starting with level 44. He'll learn all of his available skills at 47, and from there we can start taking his essence, which ended up being one of, if not the most valuable essences in the entire game. Its skills are okay, but like I said, Belphegor resists damn near everything in existence. While the fire and light weaknesses do suck, resistance to physical and electric and null to ice and dark gives us a wide swath of positive affinities, much more than really any other demon for a long time. Short of needing specific affinities for a fight, Belphegor will become our default essence for affinities for the next, half a game or so. With this, we can move on to... Oh shit, we forgot the fiends again.
I keep having this nagging feeling that I've forgotten something.
Before we forget again, we take on Hellbiker, who we don't outlevel nearly as badly, but not so much that we can actually take damage. Hellbiker is essentially a straight port from Nocturne, having Hellspin, Hellburner, Hell Exhaust, and Dekunda. Hell Exhaust even still acts as a Dekaja too, making him, again, the only fiend in the game that has both. The only addition is Tentarafu, which is a bit of an issue, but doesn't swing the fight too far in his favor. His affinities are also very strong too, being immune to both fire and force and resistance to light and dark. Sadly, he's also weak to ice now, so one quick stop at the Cathedral of Shadows to swap Agilao for Bafula, and swap to Nekomata's essence for fire resistance and force immunity, and Hellbiker goes down without a hitch. Returning to the plot, we receive a big fat exposition dump about the nature of Nahobino, and how you split every deity into two beings, a human soul and a god. Sayori was apparently Lahmu's other half, which is why he wanted her so much, to become a trans ally, to become a Nahobino. As for why we got the short end of the stick and had our other half be a robot created by the plot, who's to say, but I do feel a little scammed right now. Anyway, the Children of Bethel, that's our organization's name by the way, I don't think I mentioned it before now, decide to partake in the teenage Japanese tradition of hanging out on the roof. We brought our custom character along and it gets a bit awkward, but we decide to join the war on God on the side of the god. Welcome to Ginza. I hope you like it. We'll be here for around 26 hours. The earlier areas aren't too much to write home about, as we can more than handle the demons in the area, but we do find the best side quest in the game, Black Frost, who tells us that he was the Emperor of Kabukicho. Yep, this is the same Black Frost from Nocturne, and he's going to become a loan shark. Unfortunately, to take over all of Ginza, he needs alcohol to sell, and Dionysus has all of it, apparently. Now, Dionysus will ask you to take out Black Frost instead, and we do usually like to explain what you're doing on either side of a quest like this to make an educated decision based on the challenge at hand. Yeah, no, screw it, we're doing Black Frost, what do you take us for?
The Dionysus fight sees him weak to ice while only sporting 3 moves. Unfortunately, these 3 moves are, problematic. Acrobatic Kick is a weak physical hit that always crits. Agilao gives him a consistent magic option, while Sexy Dance allows him to charm us, potentially costing us turns. Additionally, the level jump from the last area to Ginza is considerably higher in comparison, as Dionysus is already level 44, 1 level our senior. We went from out-leveling the final boss of the last zone by 4 to being out-leveled by a mini-boss. Thankfully, what we said about Loup-garou still applies. If we resist physical, Acrobat Kick can't crit, even when it's supposed to. With this knowledge, and the knowledge that we would later obtain about the Rajanaga Abscess, which wasn't that far away from here, possessing exclusively physical attacks alongside Mabufula, we decided to grab physical resistance once more. But before that, we decided to go back to the first area of Dot, and accidentally discovered Komokoten standing on a hill. Now, this is part of a side quest to go and kill the 4 Devas, Komoko, Jikoku, Zocho, and Bishaman. However, we didn't know this yet. We just kinda assumed this is where Komoko lives. So we decided to kill him for fun. Thankfully, Komokoten isn't that scary. He favors force attacks over any of his physical options, so if you come in with any force immunity, you should be able to handle this with no problem. You also get nothing for it because we haven't even started the quest yet. Compounding the problems we need to solve, the other 2 abscesses we have available to us have us fighting Anzu and Mishiguji in one, and the Horde of Kaiwan in the other. Mishiguji has only Mamadune and is weak to force, whereas Anzu has multiple high damage physical options and is also weak to force. On top of that, the Kaiwan have exclusively Mamadune and their basic physical alongside a light weakness. And in case you forgot what Robin said earlier, Belphegor's essence literally solves all of these problems. Physical resistance and immunity solves Rajnaga's abscess, physical resistance and Dark Null solves the Kaiwan abscess, and the elect resistance also solves the Anzu Mishiguji abscess. While we did use Oni instead for Dionysus, as not being weak to Agilao was pretty useful, we did find our favorite toilet demon's essence lying on the ground, which allows us to circumvent the grind and equip it at a mere level 43, which allowed us to take down the remaining 3 abscesses for Mastery 3 to upgrade our fire, ice, electric, and force damage from Anzu and Mishiguji, Physical and Almighty Mastery 2 alongside Nahobino's 7th skill slot from Rajanaga, thank fucking god, and Light, Dark, and Ailment Mastery 3 from Kaiwan. We also ended up discovering an abscess which pits us against the following 3 demons. A Hanuman that packs physical and force skills that repels force, but is weak to electric attacks. An Oberon who only has force and healing moves and immunity to force attacks, but also weak to electric attacks. And an Anzu with electric attacks, elect block, and a flat-out immunity to all electric attacks while being weak to dark moves. Our build isn't exactly geared for force damage right now, so we elected to table this for now and come back later. Unfortunately, moving forward would prove to be even more of an issue.
Young man, look, it's Rido.
Oh, hey, Rido, what's up?
Nuwa, my queen, please forgive me for I'ma kill this man.
Technically, we're two men in one body.
Kinda like Kaya Daidoji.
From Rido.
Rido's moveset is heavily reliant on physical damage, though he does also have Galvanic Slash, a heavy strength-based electric attack, along with Mizionga. Rido has an extremely simple game plan, however. Step 1, buff with Tarukaja. Step 2, kill ZEUS.
Oh, that was resisted.
That was 87 resisted? What the fuck are you talking about?
Plus 1 is only around a 20% increase in damage. However, this does mean that he is capable of roughly 200 damage a turn if he uses Fatal Sword or Deathbound, potentially even more if he gets a large number of hits with Mist Rush. And he will buff to plus 2 if given the opportunity, and generally prefers to stay there. On top of that, since Mist Rush can inflict Mirage, we have a chance to be left all but guaranteed to miss him after he uses that move. Suffice it to say, this was simply not happening right now. At the time, we were currently 3 levels below him, so instead we decided to level up to 46 and picked up Madoon to take advantage of his dark weakness. However, the big thing which helped us here was a suggestion in the comment section that asked why we weren't using Restore. Restore is a simple passive. Whenever you strike a weakness or land a critical hit, you are refunded 10 MP. Considering Madoon costs 21 MP, if we have full Magatsuhi, which already allows us to regenerate 5 MP every turn already, this effectively reduces the cost of a single Madoon to 6 MP and the cost of 2 to 17 MP. In addition, if we get a weak hit using an item, say a Dark Gem, this also triggers Restore, effectively turning every dark damage item into a small MP heal. This increases our overall spell economy tremendously and gives us a lot more staying power in fights. This effectively puts the fight largely in our control, despite how slow it is to burn through Rido's 6300 HP while doing 100 damage per shot. Between Magatsuhi Wellspring restoring 18 HP per turn and Diorama healing us for 200 per use, the only situation in which he'll be able to leave meaningful damage on us is if he used Mist Rush twice in a row, which is fairly uncommon. His Magatsuhi pattern isn't very scary either, he just spams Mazionga. So if you have the Elect Dampeners to give yourself Void Electric for a turn, you can potentially ignore that aspect of the fight entirely. Plus, while Galvanic Slash certainly looks cool, it does around as much damage as Mist Rush, so that's not really that scary. Well, it wasn't easy, and we were all but spent on MP and Dark items by the time it was done. After 36 minutes, Rido goes down.
Yeah!
We did it!
We also went back to fight Thoth, which, with the combination of Restore effectively doubling our MP and Madoon now doing almost 400 damage a turn, this fight was pretty trivial. Doing this fight unlocks his Constant Vigilance, which increases our Magatsuhi gauge at the start of each turn. We also gain Healer's Hospitality, which reduces the cost of healing at Leyline founts, empowering Cheer 2, which makes it so leveling up fully heals our HP and MP, and finally...
Race Transcendence. I am not allowed to comment.
Same.
I think YouTube will definitely come for us.
Moving on, we end up finding new fights to get into, which include an Abscess with Dakini and Kukulane, which has a heavy focus on physical fire and force, another with Silky Sarasvati and Kushinara Hime with almost exclusively ice skills, and a non-Abscess bonus fight against a giant Giramikala with physical and dark skills. With the exception of needing to grab Resist Fire off of a Naga essence for Dakini and Kukulane, every single one of these fights can be solved with Belphegor's essence and our current strategies. However, what will be more complicated is Cert. Cert, unsurprisingly, is essentially running the exact same concept he was in Nocturne. He has damn near every fire attack available in the game at this point, and some that aren't. But failing that, he really only has a couple of physical options. His basic attack, Heat Wave, which does slightly more damage, and Counter, which only triggers if we hit him with a strength-based attack. It does suck leaving behind base Belphegor's essence, but we can just grind another one up later. For now, Jack-O-Lantern's affinities and Bufula are enough to put down Cert without any real effort. At a 2-level deficit, no less.
After we defeat Cert, we unlock the ability to go back to Shinegawa, only to find Amanazako having created a massive-ass hole where some of Bethel used to be. Based as this is, she then goes crazy and attacks us, forcing us into a fight. We get completely dumpstered. Her energy drain is capable of stealing no small amount of HP and MP from us, and Electric and Force is a difficult set of resistances to come by. Combine this with the fact that she's capable of no small amount of damage with her basic attack and her unique Dark Element counter, we decide to save this one later, and come back when we can readily obtain Resist Force. Unfortunately, moving forward, we don't fare much better. If you defeated Matador, Hellbiker, and Daisojo prior to this point, once you move forward from where you fought Cert, the Backstreet Boys show up to reenact the second Kalpa scene from Nocturne. This opens up the Rider fights, the first of which can be found in Ginza already. So we head back to White Rider and have just enough time to realize two things. Firstly, White Rider has upgraded his backup dancers from Virtues to Dominions. Secondly, as luck would have it, Belphegor's essence was apparently being sold at the Everything to Get Fucked by White Rider shop. White Rider retains the basic idea of his kit from Nocturne, a heavy focus on light and fire attacks, which are Belphegor's two weaknesses. This is made worse by the Dominions, who focus on casting Matarunda, Mediarama, and Makarakai. While we definitely had the resources to handle this fight right now, we elected to take a look around and see what else we couldn't deal with at this point. And up ahead, we find a Dekarabia, who informs us that Ishtar is blocking the way forward. If you tackle Ishtar immediately, she'll have 8 press turns. However, there also exists 7 pillars throughout Ginza, and for every one you find and disable, she loses a press turn during the fight. Dekarabia requests 20,000 Maka to tell you this information, and another 20,000 to tell you the location of the pillars. You could refuse to pay him both times, and regardless of your choice, he'll join you as a navigator until you beat Ishtar. And he's one of the best, as he has an increased chance to find gems. However, once Ishtar dies, he'll leave your party, and will not join you again until you pay him the 40,000 he asked for. If you pay it to him now, he joins for free later. If you only pay 20,000, he asks for the other 20 later. Either way, 40,000 Maka isn't that much of an object to us, but we tell him to eat shit anyway because it's funny. Once we do that, we challenge Ishtar, who at this point is completely pathetic. She can barely touch us even if she hits a weakness. What is not pathetic, however, are these fucking tunes. Regardless, coming in with Power's Essence for no light and resist electric make this fight completely trivial. But we also make sure to pick up Profaned Land, as it's one of the strongest dark moves in the game, and comes with a 100% poison chance. It's admittedly reduced to 50% by Ishtar's ailment resistances, but it's still extremely useful. We also grab Great Curse Siphon to restore some MP whenever we successfully inflicted poison. Was this dramatic overkill? Yes. Did it feel good?
Oh, that looks good.
Nice balls, bro.
Also yes. It was at this point when we discovered what would be one of the most persistent roadblocks in the entire run. This dumbass Yolunga Abscess. Yolunga's game plan is fairly simple. Every few turns, he casts Dirahin and fully heals himself back to his maximum 3500 HP. Under normal circumstances, you would simply take advantage of his weakness to Mute, which would leave him incapacitated for long enough that you could drop him in a couple turns. However, as we only deal a little over 600 damage a turn at maximum, this puts us in a bit of a pickle. With 3 press turns, Yolunga is actually fairly likely to break out of Mute earlier than most demons, so you need to reapply the status often. However, this is where the law of diminishing returns starts to work against us. Every time we hit Yolunga with Maka Jam, the odds we will be able to do so again decrease significantly. Even taking all the ailment mastery miracles to get a +5, giving us an extra 35% chance to apply the condition, that only gets us so far. As such, we elected to put this on the back burner, go take out that Hanuman Isis Oberon abscess, which we snowball with Ruinous Thunder, Profaned Land, and a 5-level handicap, and make our way into the castle that Ishtar was guarding. Welcome to the Demon King's castle. Most of the dungeon itself isn't that much of a concern, so long as you have any semblance of timing. Now, the main issue comes about halfway in at the top of a random set of stairs.
Oh, it's Chernobyl.
Quite skilled to make it this far.
Look, I'm on your side. I don't like them either.
You were nothing but lambs to the slaughter for Chernobog.
Chernobog has a deceptively simple toolkit at his disposal. Outside of Mamadune, which he doesn't use often outside of his Omogotoki pattern, Chernobog has almost exclusively physical attacks. Fangbreaker, Pierce Armor, and Blinding Strike are 130 power moves that hit slightly harder than his basic attack, and debuff attack, defense, or accuracy and evasion respectively. Since random target moves only hit a single target for their minimum number of hits, Blight is a 200 base power attack with a 35% poison chance, Dark Sword is a 180 power attack with a 30% mute chance, and Toxic Spray is an 85% chance to poison while also debuffing defense by 1 stage. And don't worry, even if the poison doesn't proc, the Racunda still does. Now, all of this would still be manageable, difficult but manageable, if not for one simple thing.
Oh, he has...
I guess... You have what?
4 Prestones.
Ah.
4 Prestones makes this fight so much more of a hurdle than I think can be described. Since we finally managed to tackle a fight at a level we were meant to, we decided to try to make good on our agreement not to overlevel everything and only match Chernobog's level. But even with Belphegor's essence resisting physical and nulling dark, we were still at the mercy of how many actions Chernobog gets. Even if he were to exclusively use his basic attack, something extremely uncommon mind you, he would do roughly 240 of our 334 health. Combine that with the fact that he'll consistently be attempting to debuff our evasion, accuracy, and more importantly, defense, and Chernobog has an uncomfortable amount of control over this fight. We needed something to protect us, and for once, physical resistance wasn't going to cut it. But you know what will? Tetrakarn. Tetrakarn is admittedly extremely expensive, but it completely reflects whatever form of physical torture Chernobog wants to throw at us, even going so far as to reflect the debuffs back at him. Given this doesn't deal with Toxic Spray, so we will occasionally need to use a healing item to cleanse that, but this allows us significantly more staying power in the fight. However, the issue then becomes maintaining this strategy. Attack mirrors are extremely uncommon, and we can only hold 10 of them anyway, so we'll mostly be relying on Tetrakarn, which at +3 mastery costs 37 MP, of which we only have 257. This means, assuming we cast no other spells whatsoever, we'll be casting Tetrakarn 6 times.
Ooh, that's kind of small.
Thankfully, looks can be deceiving. We still have Restore, so every hit with Hamon or a Light Gem restores 10 MP, reducing Hamon's effective cost to 7. Combine this with the fact that we passively regenerate 6 MP per turn while the Magatsuhi gauge is full, and Hamon becomes essentially free. This means we only need to worry about our Tetrakarn management, which we can do fairly effectively with light attack gems and MP restoring items. Though MP restores come with their own cost, as we will have to use them on our second action, which is usually when we would be using Tetrakarn in the first place. This means if we lack the MP to use Tetrakarn, we have to leave ourselves open to recover it, something we'll be forced to do multiple times throughout the fight. If you really need to recover MP, you can do so when he gathers for a Mogotoki critical. His Amogotoki pattern always opens with Mamadune, before following it up with physical attacks. However, remember that Magatsuhi Dispersion miracle we talked about forever ago?
And Magatsuhi Dispersion will end the enemy's Amogotoki critical effect if they attack into a guard or an element that you null, or even better.
This makes it so that when we null Mamadune, he loses the critical status, so we only need to handle 2 physical attacks instead of 4. The scariest moment in this fight had to be one turn where he hit us with Toxic Spray twice in a row. This not only poisoned us, but also gave us a -2 to our defense. Healing at 212 HP would have put us at risk of death, so we elected a Tetrakarn and simply hope Nahobino cleansed the status naturally. Which is when we saw something strange happen. He hit us with Dark Sword, which got reflected, but this somehow cleansed our poison. I'm not exactly sure what did this, but I certainly won't turn it down. With no small amount of luck and around 20 minutes of Tetrakarn spam, we finally managed to take down Chernobog.
Oh! He killed himself with his own Dark Sword, yes!
You should kill yourself now!
After losing a few more hours to Yerlunger, we continued our way down into the Demon Castle, where we find Mara's counterpart, Ariok, who I feel like is one weird camera angle away from getting this video demonetized. Ariok himself focuses exclusively on ice and physical attacks, while also being weak to electric, so Belphegor's Essence and Ruinous Thunder all but completely shut him down. On top of that, Tetrakarn spam works just as well here as it did on Chernobog, racking up damage even faster while denying the Decarabia minions he summons the ability to act. If they do get actions, they'll usually use them to either hit us with Agidine or to buff up the entire group with Masukukaja. Since Belphegor is weak to fire, we have to sacrifice Sakanagi for resist fire, but after that, the fight goes down with no trouble at all with the 2-level deficit.
There we go.
On our way out, we come across a Power, who tells us that the Archangel Kamael wants to meet us. Simply talking to him completes the quest, however, he then immediately challenges us to a fight. He brings 2 powers with them, with standard powered attacks, while he himself has Agidine, Hades Blast, and Diorama. While we aren't able to take on this fight in our initial attempt due to Power's Hamon exploiting Belphegor's light weakness, one trip to the Cathedral of Shadows later, and the fight is significantly more manageable. While Kamael himself will use Diorama to heal the powers fairly frequently, he does not do so for himself, allowing us to slowly whittle him down. And with everything in Ginza completed, we are finally ready to move on to...
I keep having this nagging feeling that
At this point, White Rider is pretty trivial. Between Profaned Land and Ruinous Thunder, we're more than capable of keeping White Rider's minions in check, while also, at the same time, keeping them from buffing too much. After this encounter, we are immediately followed up with Red Rider, whom we are 6 levels higher than only because he summons powers to aid him and is also weak to ice, which makes him functionally the same fight as Kamael. However, with Red Rider's higher powered skills combined with the stronger minions makes this fight a bit more challenging than we expected. Fortunately, Rajanaga's Essence gives us Absorb Electric, which gives Red Rider a consistently high chance of blowing his entire turn to heal us. This does not make the fight free by any means, but with enough luck, we are more than capable of pushing through to take the win. Black Rider hasn't received much of a change from Nocturne aside from his unique move Soul Divide, which has been completely reworked. Rather than having a target's HP, it's now just a severe almighty attack with 50% accuracy and a guaranteed chance to mute. The Legion have also lost Mamudun and Hellgaze, and have been reduced to Tetrakarn and Matarukaja spam. Thankfully, this fight was a lot simpler than Red Rider, since all it really took was a simple pivot to Fornius' Essence to absorb Black Rider's Mabufudine, followed by taking Zandine with Force Pleroma, which allowed us to take him out only 1 level higher than he is. And if you thought Black Rider was lowballed from his encounter in Nocturne, get a load of this guy. Pale Rider's fight is still largely ailment based, as he and the Loa he summons will be trying to poison you with Toxic Cloud or Toxic Sting respectively, or they'll try to sleep or mute you with Dormina and Makajam so that Pale Rider can swing with Pestilence. That being said, Pestilence has been severely nerfed from Nocturne, going from an almighty attack which instant kills you if you're poisoned to a physical hit that deals about 48% extra damage if you have an ailment. He also lost Eternal Rest, so he can no longer instant kill you if the Loas put you to sleep. As such, we can easily take out this fight by equipping Belphegor's Essence to not only null Mabufudine and the Loa's Madun, but to also resist Pestilence. Unfortunately, the ailments are still a concern since we don't want to deal with poison or sleep for too long. And while diminishing returns would most certainly help us in that regard, we feared it might not be enough. So instead, we managed to find a way for us to at least give the game a head start. Hellish Mask is a skill that reduces your base odds of getting hit by status effects or instant kill skills by 30%, which means we would be functionally immune halfway through the fight. Stack that with Agudine and Fire Pleroma, and this is one of the easiest fighters of the bunch. Moving forward to progress the plot, we managed to find ourselves smack dab in the middle of the most meaningless politicking we've ever seen.
Hear me. Bethel's mission is to sustain this world, God's world.
Admit your God is dead and gone.
He speaks true.
Whose authority? How do you explain the Nahobino standing here before us?
Khonsu makes the entirely valid point that our existence as Nahobino, someone supposedly equal to God, would either mean that God is dead or that God has deemed us a worthy successor. Knowing that the latter is false, and not wanting to admit the former, Abdiel, who's been totally cool with us up until now, decides to completely 180 and attempt to kill us, as though that will prove her point somehow. At level 58, Abdiel presents no small challenge. She has a large amount of fire and physical attacks capable of auto-critting and inflicting mute. But the problem here is her unique attack, Light's Descent, which does more damage than any of our other options and is capable of instant killing us if we are weak to light. If we want to take this fight remotely consistently, we're going to need to all but completely shut down her entire kit. For our affinities, we swapped over to Horus's Essence, which gives us Repel Light and Resist Fire. As for our skills, we swapped Fire Pleroma for Dark Pleroma and Agudine for Tetrakarn. While we are unable to completely loop her with Restore, we can at least refund 10 MP with each Dark Gem, while also making our Profane lands much cheaper. By alternating between Dark attacks and Tetrakarn, we can loop Abdiel's AI without her ever being able to get a hit in. Once she only has a third of her health remaining, she'll gather Magatsuhi and use her Mogatoki critical pattern, which starts on Miragudine. As a result, you can just shut this down completely with a Fire Dampener or a Magic Mirror. At this point, she will swap in Dark Sword and her basic attacks into the pattern, but she'll still use Light's Descent every 3 turns. This fight had some tight moments, but we were still able to win with this strategy on our first attempt at a 4-level deficit.
Ah, 380.
Oh my
God. Look at her go.
How did we pull that off?
We pulled it off because we recognized the pattern.
It was at this point that the game proceeded to exposition dump for 15 minutes solid, explaining the fact that when he became the creator god, he decided nobody else could ever have a turn on the Xbox ever again, and promptly severed everyone from their knowledge. The knowledge became humans, and the gods left were just normal demons. But since Lucifer went and killed God, now godhood is back on the table, with Aogami being our destined partner in the race to be the new creator. To the surprise of absolutely 0 people, Koshimizu, that's this guy, by the way, informs Keisuke that he's his destined partner too, and continuing with surprises that aren't surprises, Dazai is apparently Abdiel's as well. At least he got to have a character arc before his. Anyway, Tao's back, reincarnated by something, in order to aid us on the road to creation, and joins the party as a bonus unit. Unfortunately, despite being demon enough to not count for a no demons run, she's also just kind of not very good. As such, she'll be relegated to cheerleader status for the remainder of the journey, but she's at least polite enough to first teleport us to Taito, the final section of Dot, at which point we are greeted by a shockingly not crazy Amanazako, who joins our party as Navi without our consent. Also, every single thing in Taito sucks. There are 6 separate abscesses here, all of which have some of the most rough fights we've had to endure so far. And we are anywhere from 10 to 45 levels under-leveled for everything in the area. But this is when we decided, more than any point prior, that we wanted to try and keep ourselves at as low a level as possible. So we got to work, scoping the entirety of Taito for essences, abscesses, side quests, demons, bosses, as well as anything else that would allow us to take the entirety of this section of the game at as low a level as we physically could. But before we did that, First we took on Yamata no Orochi. Beating Yearlonger finally gave us Mastery 4 for the 4 main elements, which reduces the cost of Ruinous Thunder by a good bit. Combine that with High Restore off of Loki's Essence and Restore off of, well, multiple choices, but we went with Aogami Type 7, makes it so that every time we hit a weakness with Ruinous Thunder, we restore 30 MP, meaning it has an effective cost of -17. This is useful as Orochi can only use either his basic attack or Tatanamakia, meaning we can combine Ruinous with Tetracard to repel all of his attacks, whatever they are, at the cost of 20 MP. With full Magatsuhi, we regenerate 6 MP per turn, meaning Tetrakarn has a net cost of 14 MP. At level 55, we had 297 MP, so we can keep this loop up for 21 turns. Combine that with the fact that any turns in which we use electric items reduce the cost from 14 MP to 1, and we can nearly loop him to death. We do need to heal a singular time, but he can't kill us even if he uses Tatanamakia twice, so Tetrakarn is able to take this fight down. And this is a big one to win as well. Defeating Orochi unlocks our final skill slot. Up next is Sibylle and Skahak. Skahak has Mistrush, Makajaman, and Mahamon, and Sibylle has Dark Sword, Sexy Dance, and Miragidine. Both are weak to electric.
Robin, what's your plan for this? The same stupid thing.
We threw Hellish Mask on for our 8th skill to give diminishing returns a head start, but for the rest of our strategy, we were actually largely relying on Skahak herself. See, she'll always go first, and Horus' affinities give us Repel Light. With Tetrakarn spam, the only thing she can do that won't get repelled is Makajaman, giving us a large chance to prevent Sibylle from moving at all. Plus, even if she does, then she'll get herself repelled with Dark Sword, attack into a resistance with Miragidine, or go for Sexy Dance, which will solve itself over time. Focus Sibylle first, and once she goes down, the fight is already won. This gives us Mastery 5 for the 4 basic elements. So after a quick detour to get murdered for scouting Khonsu's affinities, we grab Electric Mastery 5, swap to Kukulei's affinities, and take on Rangda. At maximum potential, a damage dealing skill will cost 40% less and deal 55% more damage. So if you have the glory to fully master an element, it's definitely worth it. Meanwhile, Rangda's probably one of the easiest abscesses to deal with. She only has physical and force, so she dies the Tetrakarn strats just like Orochi and Skahak before her at a 7-level deficit. Thank God somebody at Atlas decided to make Repels almighty. This unlocks the final upgrade for Art of Essences, allowing us to obtain every skill a demon can provide.
Following this, we took on one of the more complicated abscesses in the region, which Robin decided to call the Brady Bunch, consisting of Skadi, Atavaka, Siegfried, and Berong. Everyone here is still 8 levels higher than us, so don't expect to be doing anything but chip damage. Skadi is weak to fire, Null's dark, and is packing ice and dark attacks. Siegfried absorbs physical, is weak to force, light, and dark, and has only physical attacks. Berong is weak to force and dark, and is packing physical and electric attacks. And Atavaka is weak to ice and packs light and dark attacks. If we're gonna win this fight, we're gonna have to make some concessions. For affinities, we went with Ananta's Essence, which we found kind of just lying around in Taito like we did most of our essences lately. This gives us immunity to Berong's Maziodyne, Skadi's Mabufudyne, and Atavaka's White Draco Strike. Ananta does make us weak to dark, which would be a problem due to Skadi and Atavaka, but Ishtar's Essence, which we also found randomly in Taito, gives us Null Dark to cover that hole as well. This means that we are completely immune to Atavaka and Skadi as far as skills go, but unlike earlier fights, they can go for their basic attacks still. No joke, we took this fight as a massive gamble. The order of attack is consistent: Skadi, Atavaka, Berong, Siegfried. If Siegfried ever gets to go, he's going to Persona 3 reload us. As such, our build was designed to make sure he never got to go. If Skadi or Atavaka go for either of their skills, Siegfried won't get their turn. If they both use skills, neither does Berong. But even if both of them go for the basic attack, there's still a 50-50 chance Berong saves us by going for Maziodyne. If the turn order is allowed to go to Siegfried, and if Berong hasn't already killed us, Siegfried certainly will. As such, spam Zandyne into Siegfried until he can never go again, then turn around and do the same thing to Berong. Picking up physical resistance and enduring soul off of Cerberus's essence means once Siegfried goes down, the other 3 can't kill us, even if they all go for physical. As a result, we're able to take this fight down in 2 tries, so it doesn't require that much luck. Following this, we decide to tackle one of, if not the hardest abscess in the entire game. The Revenge of the
Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne.
This fight consists entirely of low-level bitch demons that have been given the most overpowered setups for their specific builds. Also, everyone here is level 99, so if you thought you weren't doing damage before, Pixie has only Zan and Dia, but Heal Pleroma and High Heal Pleroma alongside a +1 potential means that she has a 78% bonus to her healing. She also has Null Electric and Force, so she's only weak to Dark. The Slime picks up Null Physical, but thankfully leaves all of his other weaknesses open. However, he does have a fairly strong Lunge, along with +2 Poisma boosted by Poison Adept and Poison Master, meaning any poison he inflicts will deal 600% damage. The Omnoroki is weak to Ice and Force, and can hit extremely hard with Agi. He also can panic you with Palimpa, and counter and retaliate make strength-based skills a death sentence. The Preta meanwhile packs Null Ice and Dark, while being weak to Fire, Force, and Light. While he does have Bufu, his main option is Bestial Bite, which deals bonus damage whenever it crits, and works really well with his Bloody and Murderous Glee passives, making him all but guaranteed to crit. But the worst part of it all is that every single unit gets 2 press turns, meaning in total they have 8 actions. You cannot go into this fight without a plan. For our affinities, we elected to go with Siegfried. Physical Absorb is huge for this fight, since even the demons who don't have physical skills will still occasionally go for a basic attack since they are low-level demons. From there, we pick up Null Fire off of Chimera, Null Ice off of Atropos, and Null Force off of Barong. This covers literally every skill that they can throw at us, with the exception of Slime and Omoroki's status effects, which will diminish over time. As for our offensive skills, we elected to keep Xandine, Profane Land, and Ruinous Thunder as the first 2 cover all 4 of their weaknesses, and we aren't yet ready to drop Ruinous Thunder. The biggest issue, however, is Pixie. With her massive healing, she can heal for over 450 health per dia, which is a lot of progress gone when we're only doing roughly 75 damage per hit. However, that's where Physical Absorb comes in. Since every demon has and will use physical attacks, this gives us a fairly high chance to cancel their entire turn, lowering the number of actions that Pixie can take. The less she can act, the less likely she is to heal. Until Pixie is dead, however, do absolutely nothing but spam Profane Land onto her. For once, it's even advantageous to use our Magatsuhi for a Mogotogi critical rather than sitting on it for the regen, just to get that little bit of extra damage out. She'll likely still get a few heals in, but between the occasional poison proc from Profane Land and Unrelenting Spam, you should be able to outdamage her, and eventually Pixie will go down. From there, take out the slime so that you don't accidentally die to poison, and the rest of the fight is a freebie. The miracles we get out of this are actually pretty useful. Skillful Conversion reduces the Magatsuhi cost of using a Mogotogi critical, making it so that we can use it a little bit more often. Dread, meanwhile, causes all enemies to suffer a -1 to a random stat at the start of each battle, which isn't going to make or break any fights, but can make certain fights easier to get started at least, especially if you roll a Rakunda. For the final abscess, we are forced to contend with Yatagaras, Throne, and Mitra. Yatagaras has Force, Light, and Diaran. Throne has Fire, Light, and Meteorama, and Mitra has Light, Almighty, and Diarmita. Swap out Null Ice for Null Light, and our Siegfried build blocks everything but Megiddola. The big issue is obviously Yatagaras, since Diaran can completely invalidate our progress. However, Yatagaras thankfully solves this problem for us, as they are also weak to Charm. Both Yatta and Throne are weak to Dark, so swing at Throne until Yatta heals him, then swing hard for the next 2 turns. On the third, toss out a charm gem and hope that you successfully proc your charm. From there, finish off throne. Repeat the same strategy against Yatagarasu, and Mitra will go down without too much of a hassle. With all the abscesses defeated, we now have the ability to maximize our potential in every element, something which we immediately make use out of, and we set our sights on the main plot. After Abdiel tried and failed to kill us, the other 4 gods that led Bethel, Shiva, Odin, Zeus, and Khonsu, all decided to go and try and find their Nahobino partners too. Khonsu, however, immediately gave up, which leads into the start of his own side quest chain. Khonsu might out-level us by 6 levels, but don't let that scare you. He's packing fire, light, and physical skills, with his unique move Karnak having a high critical hit chance. But with no fire and light, along with Siegfried's physical absorb, he literally cannot touch us. So we maxed our ice affinity, grabbed the Elastic Calamity off of Aogami Type 9's essence to hit his weakness, and...
Oh shit, heed my call.
So why doesn't the Nahobino just flood the entire... Ooh, that is a good shot.
That was a good shot.
With this, we have full access to the best grinding spot in the game, as it has a chance to spawn Aogami essences, allowing us to reobtain any Nahobino exclusive skills that we have previously dropped.
It was at this point we actually decided to do a fiend fight roughly when it was meant to be taken at, challenging Mother Harlot. We attempted to scout this fight when we first arrived in Taito, but she gets the first turn and killed us so quickly we didn't even have the chance. Now that we're strong enough to be allowed to know what she does, we see that Mother Harlot is one of, if not the most self-sufficient fiend in the entire game. Maziodyne, Trisagion, and Makajaman give her solid elemental coverage, especially with Trisagion piercing affinities. But the big issue comes from her 2 unique moves, Babylon Goblet, a severe almighty attack with a 45% panic chance, and Deathlust, a heavy almighty attack with a 45% charm chance. In addition, she sports some of the best affinities in the entire game, resisting fire, light, and dark, repelling physical, and absorbing electric, only being neutral to ice and weak to force. We went into this fight, admittedly, completely blind to what she was capable of, and without a way to take advantage of her weakness. In addition, the only thing our affinities were doing here was absorbing her basic attack. We were completely vulnerable to everything else she had. However, with the sheer power of Elastic Calamity and her preference for her basic attack, we were somehow able to survive this fight and win on our first attempt. This fight should have gone substantially worse, and we should have needed Hellish Mask or Null Electric to even the playing field, but with enough diminishing returns, we managed to fight through Mother Harlot's status spam and win 5 levels under-leveled.
Cross your fingers.
Oh shit, heed my call.
There we go.
There it is.
Unoptimized too.
Yeah, we just threw ourselves at that and figured it out. There we go. Magic Ball free. Yeah, that's what we like to see.
But of course, with Mother Harlot dead, we all know where this is going.
I am Trumpeter, fiend and chosen herald of the end times.
Yeah, you don't look a day younger than when I last saw you.
Little did I know, that was a lie. If anything, he looked younger. Trumpeter is immune to sleep and mute, resists all 4 major elements, has Megidolon and Dekaja for good measure, and worst of all, Evil Melody, which in this game is a 150% chance of inflicting death, which causes death. Considering Trumpeter is level 73 and we're still level 60, maybe we should go do some plot and come back. Don't worry, I promise we won't forget about him this time. So with Khonsu out of the running, we only have 3 more gods to reject: Odin, Zeus, and Shiva. Though Shiva has decided to delegate his underling Vasuki to handle this in his stead. Naturally, this means he's the weakest, so we tackle him first. Vasuki's entire gimmick largely revolves around status ailments, possessing Toxic Spray, Makajaman, Slumber Vortex, and Sexy Dance, alongside Frenzied Chomp, Hysterical Slap, and Venom Chaser for damage and additional status options. The only non-status inflicting option he has is Mabufu Dine, which seems to be exclusive to his Amagatogi critical pattern. Considering we still have Siegfried's essence on for our affinities, this means we absorb all of Vasuki's damaging options except for his Amogotoki pattern, which we can just block with an Ice Dampener, Magic Mirror, or through the secret technique of just fucking guarding. Just like Mother Harlot, Vasuki suffers from the mechanics of the game, making his status options less and less consistent over time, until eventually, he can barely hit us at all. Honestly, coming at this fight 12 levels under-leveled almost makes it worse for him, since by the time we take him down, his entire kit has been neutered. It was a very engaging 40 minutes, but eventually, Vasuki loses to game mechanics.
Last shot, so got him!
This also unlocks Shiva, but we are literally 19 levels from being allowed to fight him. And anyone who's played this game will know why that is. So we decided to tackle some other quests for now. Oh hey, Fionn wants a rematch. Oh hey, he has almost exclusively physical options and can only damage us with ice. Oh hey, he's dead. Oh hey, Abaddon is sitting in Taito. Oh hey, he has almost exclusively physical options and... Oh hey, Futsunishi is here. Oh hey, he has... Oh hey, Bishaman is... Yet needless to say, we were playing this game like it was Persona 3 Reload years before it was a thing. Siegfried's affinities solved literally half of Taito, but we can only side quest for so long. Eventually, at level 63, we returned to the main quest and took on Odin at a 9-level deficit. Odin is a good stress test for the rest of the game. If you can't beat him, you probably need to tweak something. Odin has a fairly solid build, relying on Zeodyne and Thunder Rain for general damage dealing, and Mabufudyne with a Amogotoki critical. However, he also has Gungir, the second strongest hitting attack in the entire game that doesn't require a critical hit to do its damage. Not to mention, it has Pierce built in, so it will ignore our physical absorb if he uses it. By the way, here's a fun drinking game. Once you hit Taito, take a shot every time a boss's unique attack has piercing. Speaking of... Anyway, seeing as he can also boost Gungir with charge, this is gonna hit us hard. We need some way to mitigate the damage. So we finally had to resort to the bread and butter of every SMT game, buffs and debuffs. Siegfried's affinities were still good for blocking his basic attack and Hades Blast, and Null Electric shuts down the rest of his kit. Plus, we can just use an Ice Dampener whenever he goes for a Amogotoki critical. We also picked up Zanbaryon to hit his weakness, along with Restore and High Restore to make it cost -1 MP. But the crux of our strategy was Boon Boost, Rakukaja, and Tarunda. If we get these set up at the start of the fight, we can run on a pattern of attack and Tarunda, attack and Rakukaja, and double attack for the entire fight, keeping ourselves at a consistent +2 to defense while keeping him at a -2 to offense. With this and a bit of luck, we're able to survive the fight, though we did also pick up Enduring Soul just in case something went wrong, which ended up saving us. In the end, Odin goes down without much issue. And then along came Zeus, he hurled his... Zeus is the hardest fight in the run, bar none. More than any boss fight in Taito, his kit is very specifically crafted to be as rough as possible. He does have Karanos, a severe electric attack with piercing, but we never saw him use it in the fight. Now the issue is everything else. Panzer Spain is a high damage physical hit that applies Tarunda and Rakunda, Brave Blade is just a meaty physical hit, Maziodyne gives him AoE and coverage, and Luster Candy gives him no small amount of buff potential. But the two biggest issues are Madness Glint and Impaler's Animus. Madness Glint has an effective base power of 300, always hits twice, and has a 40% chance to inflict Panic or Mute. Mute is annoying, Panic is debilitating. But worse than that is Impaler's Animus, which not only gives his next attack an 80% damage boost, but also lets it pierce affinities. Even if we come in completely immune to physical and electric, he can bypass this with Madness Glint, or bypass it with Animus. We took this fight over and over, and Zeus was not budging. And he wasn't budging in such a way that it didn't even feel like level mattered. The problem wasn't how much damage we were dealing or taking, it was the fact that as the fight went on, eventually, Madness would proc Panic or Mute, or we'd get hit by an Impaler's hit, or something. We simply could not deal with what Zeus was laying down. We went and did so many side quests where we were trying to figure out something to help us beat Zeus, which by the way saw us complete the DLC quest for Artemis as we just bought all 3 DLC quests, all for the Chinese beasts to unlock the fight with Long Gaming, the Kunitsukami, Mitra and Mithra, who we beat for Amon, who by the way has a unique piercing attack, before beating him for Khonsu, and several quests for Demeter. None of these were of any particular consequence at this point. We have the essences to make ourselves immune to pretty much everything they could throw at us. Even a fight like Ball gets completely shut down by Siegfried's physical absorb and Null Fire and Electric as passives. And yet, we still couldn't beat Zeus. No matter what we tried, we just kept getting filtered. But that's when we realized we were doing it wrong. During this time, one particular user was in constant contact with us, Jaffinator2166. He provided various ideas and strategies as well as general advice, and in this case, one particular quirk about the AI. Some bosses can go into a smart AI mode, in which they will begin to avoid attacking into nulls, repels, and absorbs if possible. Not necessarily all the time, but if they don't have an option that is neutral or even resisted, they will begin using their almighty options or going for piercing abilities more often, which is exactly what we were seeing once Zeus was at half health. He'd begin going for Glint or Animus much more often. Thus, by running Null Electric, we were actually making the fight harder on ourselves. Thus, while we now had significantly more levels as well as a new move to kill Zeus with, we elected to reload for the flex, swap to resist electric, and kill Zeus at the 8 level deficit we started at like God intended.
Alright, so that was following Impalers. So, any idea on what's next?
He can either follow it up.
Don't care!
Oh, wow. We did it.
God, we did it at 64! We still did all that side questing later, but like, hey.
With Zeus is dead, the way forward was now open. But before we tackled that, we had a couple more quests to wrap up. Not the least of which being the final of the Fiends, Trumpeter. Like we said before, Trumpeter isn't screwing around this time. However, Trumpeter is not nearly as impossible this time around. With Ananta's essence making us immune to everything but Miragidine, we still needed to take every possible measure to stop Evil Melody. As such, we ended up running Enduring Soul, Endure, and Abyssal Mask. Abyssal Mask is the upgraded version of Hellish Mask, reducing ailments and insta-kill odds by 60%, which means that Evil Melody would start at 60% odds, and then the diminishing returns should do the rest. Enduring Soul and Endure, meanwhile, grants us 2 extra lives, while the Whittled Goat we've been carrying all this time is a consumable item that acts as a one-time use Enduring Soul. We could lose 3 Evil Melody rolls without dying, with each making the next less likely. As for damage, we started out using Acrobat Kick, Biz Pleroma, and Critical Zealot. Acrobat Kick only has 80 power, but will always crit, meaning it's effectively 120 power, along with always netting us an extra turn. This, alongside the 20% boost from Physical Pleroma and the 45% boost from Critical Zealot, means Acrobat Kick is at a respectable 208 base power. But then we recognized that that was lame and was for cowards. Nah, we went for Rampage. Rampage has 180 base power and hits twice, putting it at an effective 360 power. On a critical hit and with Physical Pleroma as well as Critical Zealot, that is 939 base power. Compared to simply attacking twice with Acrobat Kick, this is doing over twice the amount of damage. There is a catch, however. Each of these 2 hits only has a 50% chance to hit. That's where Critical Aura comes in. Critical Aura is a charge-like move which guarantees that your next strength-based attack will hit and always crit. This allows us to throw out Rampage every turn, get a crit, use the extra turn to cast Crit Aura, and then repeats the process every single turn. The downside is we had to sacrifice Endure, but at the speed in which we were killing him, it didn't even matter. We ended up dodging the only Evil Melody that he had been able to throw out at us, and even when he started panic spamming Megidolon at low health, this strat rips him apart on our first run, with it at a 4 level deficit, and to be honest, with how early some of the skills are available in the game, it could probably be done a lot sooner.
Well, he's dead. We did it!
Get choked!
And with all the fiends dead, we finally unlock the final stage of the quest. The Demi-Fiend awaits us in the Hall of Chaos.
I know what you're after. You gathered all those menorahs so you can go toe-to-toe with the Demi-Fiend. Is that it? Well, I hope you're ready. He's a tough one, you know.
We die horribly. We're level 69. What do you want us to do? Everything hits us for our entire health bar. We'll talk about this fight later. Anyway, we realized we'd forgotten about the Amanazaku fight throughout all this, who, at a 19 level deficit, dies in literally 4 turns. We follow this by taking down Cleopatra by pivoting to Mother Harlot's affinities along with Null Ice, Light, and Dark to completely shut her entire shtick down. After that, we drop Null Light for Null Fire to do the same for Mephisto. Mephisto's essence is more or less useless to us, but Cleopatra's provides a decent resistance to most elements that you can make use of however you see fit. At this point, our side quest roundup brought us to the Archangels. The difficult part of this fight is that all 3 are weak to something completely different, while also packing a plethora of different attacks. No matter what we do, we will need to take some form of concession, and we selected physical. All 3 Archangels trend towards magic, so even though Uriel has physical attacks, it's the least dangerous hole to leave open. As for everything else, Null Fire, Drain Force, and Artemis's affinities for Null Ice and Electric make us immune to nearly everything they can throw at us. While Uriel does Null Fire, we brought Trisagion and Ragnarok to allow us to hit everything for high damage. And with that, the Archangels go down on our first real try. Beating this fight also gives you all 3 of their essences, which gives us High Ice Pleroma and Repel Ice from Gabriel, and the Force equivalents from Raphael. Uriel's alright too, I guess. We also went and tackled the final quest of Amanazaku's questline, a fight against Zhao Gongen and a Karama Tengu. Mother Harlot's affinities alongside Null Fire and Drain Force more or less shut this fight down. The reason we mention all of this is because after completing her questline and realizing that the soulmate she was searching for this entire time was actually you, she joins your party as one of your demons in a Demonless run.
Bad news, Amanazaku.
You have picked the worst role in the world.
Finally, we arrive at the final dungeon before the end of the game, the Temple of Eternity, which both Robin and I agreed is one of the coolest dungeon designs in the entire game, if not the entire series as a whole. You can fight me on this. Unlike all of the overworld enemies in the previous areas, every enemy here operates on a preset pattern. Adramelech and Mata will only attack you if you get too close. Kale and Chiyu both patrol on set paths unless they see you. Ongyoki summons copies of himself if you ever enter the room that he's in, etc, etc. Played normally, this area would force you into about 8 dozen encounters with extremely high level enemies. However, passing through certain doorways will cause time to stop. In this state, you cannot interact with anything. Doors, chests, enemies, nada. Unless you pass through another doorway which resumes time, now out of harm's way. This gives you 2 different ways to handle the dungeon. You can either carve your way through fighting enemies, which are difficult but are worth a lot of XP, or you can make use of the time stop mechanic to sneak past all of the encounters, only fighting what is necessary. The game provides you a mechanic, then allows you to decide whether or not you want to use it, by simply fighting or whatever. Both are valid options, and both allow you to case the place from top to bottom for items and essences, some of which can be extremely useful, like Chi, who provides high physical pleroma along with Drain Ice, a skill completely unique to him. And at the end of it all lies our final fight before we decide upon our ending, Alan Rickman.
This is the path that leads to the throne. It is a sacred place that only those who are worthy may enter. I, Alan Rickman, shall be your judge. Let this be your final testament.
Alan Rickman's stats look like he just walked out of Nocturne, grabbed Mahabharyan, and changed nothing else. He can only be damaged neutrally by physical and dark, and he resists everything else, or better. While we can mitigate his light and basic attacks, Begi Dolan is always going to hit hard. This isn't helped at all by Fires of Sinai, which he starts using towards the end of the fight, and if he hits us with Debilitate twice, is a guaranteed one-shot. We needed both a way to kill him quicker while also being able to survive his almighty onslaught. For the latter, we remembered something that we had learned during the ZEUS fight.
Some bosses can go into a smart AI mode, in which they will begin to avoid attacking into nulls, repels, and absorbs if possible.
As such, we swapped over to Xiaogongen's essence, providing us with resistance to light, thus making him more likely to use his light attacks during the later phases. As for damage, we decided to upgrade upon our Trumpeter strategy by picking up Myriad Slashes and High Physical Pleroma off of Chi-Yu. If you thought 939 base power was wild, Myriad Slashes is 5 hits at 80 power each for a total of 400. With Crit Aura, High Pleroma, and Zealot, that is a base power of 1174. And with Restore and High Restore, Myriad Slashes only costs 25 MP, 11 of which we regenerate at the start of every turn with Full Magatsuki. This strategy is remarkably consistent and self-sustaining, and combined with Null Fizz, Resist Light, and Whittled Goat for a free Enduring Soul, we ripped through Metatron in no time at all.
Proving yourself deserving of the title, Nahobino.
Now, we could absolutely move forward and decide on our ending route, but we have one final thing to do before that happens. Having defeated Khonsu along with Mitra, and Amon, Khonsu now ascends to become Khonsu Ra, and aims to forcibly turn Girl Joker into a god in order to cure her terminal illness. Yes, that's real. We must fight him to stop that. Khonsu Ra is a mildly upgraded version of his earlier fight, though he now packs Varkugel, Megidolon, and Mesikit's Path, an almighty counter he can prepare on his turn. If he uses this, do not attack him, as he will retaliate with a move that inflicts something called Shroud, a unique status that acts like a poison but affects your MP instead of your HP. He does also have a Piercing Fire move, but he literally never used it. He also summons adds in the form of Anubis and Thoth, who are weak to Force and Dark, and while he doesn't revive them once they go down, it's actually not a bad idea to let them live, as with the right affinities you can actually use them to cause Khonsu to lose turns. For this, we actually went with Mother Harlot, along with grabbing a couple of extra skills in the form of Null Fire and Null Light, so that we can upgrade a couple of her resistances. This meant that we were immune to Khonsu's Fire and Light skills, able to absorb Thoth's Zeodyne, all while completely mitigating Anubis' Mudun, leaving Varkugel and Megidolon as the only real threats in this fight. This doesn't make the fight completely free, however, since we still have to keep ourselves topped up after the occasional almighty hit. But with a bit of effort and a little bit of luck, we put Khonsu Ra on ice.
And he is dead.
He was not ready enough.
And with that, along with taking a quick detour to take down Huang Long Gaming, we have defeated every single side quest in the game up to this point. We might not have mentioned them all here, but if you look at the video archives, you'll see that we did in fact do that.
Thus, there stands nothing before us but the final decision of who we will side with. Siding with Dazai and Abdiel sets us on the law route, unlocks the ability for us to ignore levels when fusing demons, and will see us fight Tsukuyomi and Nuwa.
Siding with Keisuke and Koshimizu gives us the Chaos route, unlocks the ability to change a demon's starting skills when fusing, and sees us fighting Abdiel and Nuwa.
And siding with Raido and Nuwa has us walk the neutral path, unlocks jack shit, and sees us fight Abdiel and Tsukuyomi.
There technically is a fourth path, but we are still not high enough level to talk about that, so for now, let's talk about the neutral path and see where it leads.
Before you begin, make sure you loot the entire area. There are a couple final side quests here, including Demeter's final quests, which sees us fight a harder version of Zeus who actually uses Kratos this time, which after we just spent weeks on Zeus, we decided to just table for later. The chests here though, that's what you're going for. Amazing items like bead chains, gospels, and a whittled goat, along with some incredible essences in Vishnu, Sandalphon, Beelzebub, Sarosha, and Aliat, all of whom will be useful. Once we cleared the place out, we moved on to the main event. On the neutral and chaos routes, Abdiel fuses with Dazai to turn into a Nahobino herself, and as a giant red centaur, she tosses her angelic moveset out the window.
The throne will be mine, and the Nahobino will perish!
Aside of packing extremely high power fire and force skills, she also now has two new uniques, Impetus and Purgatorium. Sadly, we only have to worry about the latter. Impetus is just a severe physical attack, so it can be shut down with Null Fizz or better. That said, Purgatorium has piercing, so Null Fire won't make this fight a freebie. That said, Null, or better to Fizz, Fire, and Dark, will still severely cripple her ability to play the game. However, she does still have a trick up her sleeve. After she takes a bit of damage, she'll summon the Depraved Arm and Depraved Wing, increasing the amount of actions she gets to 4. However, this is a blessing in disguise. The Wing is a bit of a problem as it likes to spam Makara-Khan and Luster Candy, but the Arm only uses Madness Nails and Masuku Kaja. Since we're still using the Myriad Slash's Critical Aura build, we ignore Masuku Kaja's evasion boost completely, and Madness Nails ends her turn before she gets her second action. Take out the Wing and leave the Arm alive to boost your action economy. Better affinities would have made this easier. I think we were rocking Zhao Gongen for his immunity to every status effect caused by muscle drinks, but Abdiel actually goes down on our first blind attempt at a 4-level deficit.
Look at that flip he did.
Yeah, but that backflip though.
Up next, we fight Yuzuru and Koshimizu.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Kind of looks like Vishnu Flynn. No, what's that card?
Hard?
It's the Yu-Gi-Oh card with the scythe. Artifact Scythe. It's Artifact Scythe!
Oh no.
On the neutral route, you'll fight Tsukuyomi after Abdiel, and on the law route, he'll be your first fight. Tsukuyomi is a significantly more gimmick-based fight than Abdiel. Firstly, his moveset outright lies to you. While the skills that are listed are accurate, Ice, Light, Myriad Slashes, and Yabusame Shot, he also comes with Debilitate alongside Diorama. He uses this in conjunction with the first part of this fight's gimmick, False Replication.
Does your luck wax or wane?
When he uses this move, he splits into 2 separate copies of himself. You must hit the true Tsukuyomi in order to proceed. If not, he will just heal for roughly 6100 HP. That said, False Replication only cares that you hit the correct Tsukuyomi, so we could just use an all-target attack item to progress the fight. If you hit the right one, he'll always cast True Replication on the next turn, giving him additional actions for each copy he creates. Now, the correct way to handle this fight is to just use an all-target fire attack, like Maragi Baryon. However, we found a much cooler way to do this because in spite of its name, True Replication isn't perfect. The replicas will have slightly less HP than the real one. This allowed us to just keep spamming Myriad Slashes to maximize our damage. Another thing to worry about is if he ever does his getting ready animation, he's about to use Moonlight Frost, which is a unique severe piercing ice attack. But so long as you resist or null everything else, it's nothing you can't handle. While it takes a literal hour to do this, we managed to take Tsukuyomi down at a 3-level deficit.
And finally, acting as the final boss of both the Law and Chaos routes, we fight Nuwa, who fuses with Fido to become a shiny Rayquaza.
No more holding back. It's time I unleash my full power! The throne's end is nigh. You will not get in my way!
While she does use her basic attack and force, the bulk of her kit revolves around electric attacks, so I recommend using something like Beelzebub's Essence to drain electric, combined with physical and force blocking passives. However, we still have to deal with her unique electric piercing attack, Rising Storm Dragon. But don't go thinking it's like all the other unique piercing attacks. Prior to using it, she'll use Electrify, which summons a Thunder Bit with 500 HP. On the following turn, she'll use Rising Storm Dragon, which does damage based upon how many bits are alive. With 1 bit, it does around 250 damage. With no bits, it does around 50. Needless to say, the bits have to go. If one of them dies, she'll swing for a weak electric attack in the middle of your turn, but so long as you have no electric or better, it does nothing. As the fight goes on, she'll start charging more and more bits with Electrify, before eventually it charges 4 bits at once. If she's allowed to use Rising Storm with 4 bits, it'll hit for over 1400 damage blocked. If you want to do this fight the right way, bring Maragi Baryon and spam it to kill the bits before she gets to act. But with Null Fizz, Repel Force, and Beelzebub's Essence draining electric and nulling Slumber Vortex, on the Law Route attempt, we didn't even need to. This is the easiest fight of the 3, going down at a 3-level deficit only because we were already that high of a level from earlier fights. Honestly, this fight could probably be taken 10 levels lower.
Oh, she's dead. 100 what?
With all the Nahobinos dead and gone, we are free to recreate the world as we see fit. And Neutral's able to do so, leaving the world to figure itself out. However, Law and Chaos aren't so lucky. Opting for creation in some form, both Law and Chaos are stopped by Lucifer, who wants to help the world you create truly stick, and tells you to defeat him, consume his knowledge, and break the cycle of creation and rebirth once and for all. Thus, Law and Chaos have one final fight on their hands. The Morning Star himself, having consumed the knowledge of the Creator God. Matter Lucifer.
Lucifer has every single target severe elemental attack in the game, ranging from Agibaron to Mudabaron. He also resists physical damage, is immune to all 4 standard elements, and also absorbs light. Dark is his only hole, but that's not what makes this fight an issue. Every few turns, he will conjure a random star. When he does this, Lucifer gains a weakness to the corresponding affinity, fire for Brimstone and ice for Cositis. However, that is not your main concern. If that star is still around at the start of the next turn...
Oh, so that's how Falling Star works.
Okay. So.
We do not, under any circumstances, want to take a Falling Star. Hell, we can't take Falling Star. Lucifer has 2 versions of Falling Star. One deals fire, one deals ice, both pierces. Based on a few damage tests, it seems like they have around 666 HP, but overkill is always good. We needed a strategy that was able to deal solid damage to Lucifer while also staying alive ourselves. Thus, we finally made our final pivot to upgrade Myriad Slashes to the almighty Murakumo. Murakumo is the Nahobino's Kugel, and while it doesn't match Myriad Slash's base damage, even with Murakumo's increased damage on crit, Murakumo being almighty means that it does as much damage to Lucifer as it does to the stars, which is the more important thing. Plus, the stars will die to a critical hit from Murakumo anyway. With that, alongside maxing our almighty potential, we grabbed Repel Force and Light to make ourselves immune to everything but fire, dropped Enduring Soul for Critical Zealot to help make up some of the damage, and then we challenged Lucifer one last time. Once Lucifer summons a star for the first time, he enters a predictable pattern. Assuming you destroy the star, he always responds with Tentarfu, which is blocked by Beelzebub's affinities. On his next turn, he uses Cold Dark Matter, a unique buff skill that maximizes his defense before using Megidolon. At a 4 level deficit, it does around 400 damage, so make sure you can take it. Following this, he uses 2 random elemental spells. These can be anything, so hope he attacks into a repel or an absorb. After this, he casts Megidolon once again and creates another star. This is consistent and can be planned around, so if you use Critical Aura prior to the star, you can use that to guarantee its destruction. This fight will be a lot of responding to what elements Lucifer uses, but as long as you keep yourself healed, it's entirely under your control. Until he starts summoning both stars at once. Despite this, the strategy remains more or less the same. Critical Aura will guarantee the destruction of one star, but for the other, we have to take a gamble. Amokotoki Critical just barely charges fast enough that we can have it up for every single star roll. This guarantees the hit will be critical, but unlike Critical Aura, doesn't guarantee that it'll hit. This means once Lucifer starts summoning 2 stars at around half health, every single roll simply becomes a gamble. Beyond that though, the fight doesn't really change, aside from you now having less time to heal and prep for the next set of stars. But as long as you hold on to the loop, there's nothing to be afraid of. Keep up the pattern, and at a 4 level deficit, you'll finally beat Shin Megami Tensei V without using any demons.
Oh, that would have been,
that would have been funny.
Would have been real funny.
I think we can finish him off. Either 1 or 2.
Oh!
Yes! We did it.
That was uncomfortable.
Ooh boy.
That was the double level.
Hell yeah.
Following our victory on the Law ending, we refined our strategy in the Chaos route by forsaking the HP from Great Life Spring for Drain Fire, and made this fight even easier. So, with everyone defeated, we can say we not just beat, but completed SMT5 without using any demons. Right? Well, no. See, SMT5 has 2 neutral routes. What we got was normal neutral. In true neutral, Nuwa decides not to bail after Yakumo dies and convinces us to create a world run by humans for humans, which comes with an extended Lucifer fight. But little did we know that to claim the right to do so, we would be forced to contend with one of the most grueling fights in the entirety of the game. With his neck consecrated by the flow of water that flows from his hair,
and on his neck a snake hung like a garland,
and the Damaru drum that emits the sound, Dama.
Lord
Dama,
Shiva did
Dama,
the auspicious
Dama.
dance of Tandava. May he give prosperity to all of us.
Shiva is the main game's final true challenge. Every single aspect of this fight is designed to kill you. This fight was barely meant to be taken at all, and requires a very specific setup to be able to succeed, or else you will die. If you want any hope of tackling this solo, you need to know the fight inside and out. The Tandava is a dance, and you will follow Shiva's lead. Up first is Shiva himself, who seems fairly simple. He's weak to ice and is packing fire, electric, and physical attacks, but don't think that means you can stall him out. He's still packing Megidoleon, along with his unique move, Tandava, an all-target almighty attack that hits 20% harder than Megidoleon and also sets your defense to its literal minimum. He's also packing Imperial's Animus again, so don't think you're safe even if you survive the Tandava. But of course, it couldn't possibly be that easy. Shiva's opening turn will always be to use Tandava, followed by calling in Ganesha and Kali as backup. If either of them go down, Shiva or one of his allies will summon Dakini, then Parvati, before looping back to Ganesha, unless Ganesha is still alive. All of Shiva's summons will have Dharma Magicai, which they will occasionally cast to buff Shiva's next magic attack, as well as Dekaja or Dekunda. In terms of their unique skills, Ganesha has Critical Wave, Matarunda, and Dekaja, Kali has Fogna to inflict Mirage, Masukunda, and Dekaja, Dakini has Sexy Dance to inflict Charm, as well as Matarukaja and Dekunda, and Parvati has Mahamon, Marakukaja, and Dekunda. In addition, after he takes a bit of damage, Shiva will begin summoning Ananta, who is exempt from the standard rotation. Ananta has Dekunda and Masukukaja, but more dangerously, has Mediarama, which he will use after 2 turns of being alive, and will restore nearly 24,000 health to Shiva. And even if you kill Ananta before that happens, they're just gonna summon him again. The game literally does not let up. This game requires so much of you, and if you ever make a mistake, you will either lose 1/3 of your progress on the fight, or just die. This fight requires absolute perfection, with no room for error.
Don't even entertain the idea of taking this fight below 99. I know we've talked a lot about being at a level deficit when we can be, but not here. Level 99 is a requirement. Thankfully, being at level 99 gives us nearly every tool possible to solve the problems in this fight. First, we needed to survive. There are simply not enough healing items in the game to make surviving possible without a healing ability. So grab the Arahan off of any essence that has it. We also keep High Restore in order to keep our MP up, and we're gonna need it. Second, we needed to damage Shiva. The Lacet Calamity is technically our highest damaging ice option, but against multiple targets, it'll hit 3 to 7 times, and there's no guarantee they'll be going to Shiva. So instead, we decided to opt for Bufubarion. Lastly, we needed to damage Ananta. The only way to stop his heal is to simply kill him, so dropping him is even a higher priority than damaging Shiva himself. Lastly, we needed to damage Ananta. The only way to stop his heal is to simply kill him, so dropping him is even a higher priority than damaging Shiva himself. However, this was still not enough to kill Ananta in 2 shots, which is why we also took High Force Pleroma. We also had to decide on what our affinities would be, which presented us with a bit of a problem. Shiva has scripted points when he casts Tandava, however, he will also cast it whenever he feels like it if you would be immune to whatever he's going to throw out. This means that nullifying fire, electric, and physical damage will actually increase the odds that he'll use Tandava. As such, we ended up opting for Cleopatra's Essence as it provides resistance to every element alongside draining light. It also resists Mirage and Charm, which helps against Kali and Dakini's status effects. From there, we ended up grabbing Resist Physical to round out the build, leaving us only 2 slots left to build around. And after all of this setup, would you believe that we still don't have enough damage to kill Ananta in 2 hits? In order to do this, we needed 2 final pieces of the puzzle. Luster Candy, which we can take from Huang Gaming's Essence, and Boon Boost EX, the upgraded version of Boon Boost, which extends our buffs and debuffs by 2 whole turns, making Luster Candy last for 4 whole turns of combat. Given we're only going to be able to take advantage of the offensive boost for 3 of those turns because that does include the turn it's used, but it's whatever. This results in a perfect loop. The enemy turn order starts with Shiva himself, then moves on to Ganesha or whoever's in his place at the time, then Kali, then back to Shiva again. Thus, at the start of combat, we will kill Ganesha to summon Dakini, then kill her to summon Parvati. Parvati goes before whoever the other party member is, so when she goes for Mahamon, which she will do every other action she takes, she'll attack into our Drain affinity, which will end the rest of the enemy's round. This is extremely beneficial for Ananta because it effectively gives us 1 additional turn before he casts Diorama. The downside of using this strat, however, is she'll do her best to keep everyone at +2 defense, and then she'll use her basic attack if she would use Muraku Kaja that turn. Shiva having defense buffs is just something we have to deal with. From there, we kill Kali, as even with diminishing returns slowly lowering her odds of getting Fogna to work, we don't want her to proc it at all, so resummoning Ganesha is much safer. After that, we simply push Shiva lower and lower until he summons Ananta, and then from there, every time we take out Ananta, one of the adds will summon it back, alternating between each other. If Parvati summoned him last time, it'll be Ganesha next, and vice versa. This creates a perfect loop, as said before, during which we keep ourselves at +2 with Luster Candy whenever necessary, and then attack into Shiva over and over at every other opportunity that we're given.
Don't think the fact that we have a loop makes this free though. If you have a free opportunity and you're above 500 or so HP, don't be afraid to go for a Chakra Pot. As long as you get the full 200 MP heal, it's worth it. High Restore isn't going to get us out of this fight without needing to restore MP. We will be bleeding MP over the course of the fight, so restore whenever you can. If you need to use a Soma, only do so when your MP is as low as possible, and only do so in place of a Diarahin. And you will need to cast Diarahin. Even resisted, Shiva does roughly 200 damage with Akashic Arts, and 130 with the rest of his attacks. Not to mention, Megidoleon is still capable of around 250 damage at +2 defense, and Tandava hits for around 300. The only good thing about Tandava is its damage is based upon your current defense, so you shouldn't ever have to take a Tandava at -2. Of course, the difference between +2 and -2 is about twice as much damage, so if you get Tandava'd, you better just pray he doesn't go for Akashic Arts, or that it's a turn that Parvati was going to cast Mahamon, since your lower defense will make Drain Light heal you for more. If you are ever low on buffs, Luster Candy. If you are ever low on health, heal. Do everything in your power to try and make it so both of those don't happen simultaneously, but in a pinch, it's always better to be healthy and neutral than at +2 and dead. This battle will require you to make multiple decisions on the fly, adapting to whatever situation Shiva decides to put you in. And since you don't have room for Enduring Soul, you only get 1 extra life from the Whittled Goat. In order to pull this off, we had to do everything in our power to eliminate luck as a factor, because any time we got unlucky was a time Shiva could screw us over. But with enough effort, enough planning, enough skills, and 417 minutes of attempts on camera, not even including off-camera brainstorm sessions, after an hour and 40 minutes, you too can eliminate luck from the equation.
and up next is a Nyla. Which means we will not die this turn.
You can gas him, like last time. You can gas, yeah, Shiva. Gas Shiva.
It's time!
Yeah!
We did it! Look at that!
Oh!
Essence. Shiva's essence.
Oh. Everything that was part of the normal game from that point on was pretty much just a victory lap that we desperately needed. The only thing left for us here is the final true battle against Lucifer. Trucifer starts in the same pattern as his normal fight, however we don't approach it the same way as we did last time. Instead, we dropped Great Life Spring for Null Fizz, our additional levels making up for the HP we would have had in the past. We also upgraded Almighty Pleroma to High Almighty Pleroma, and upgraded Repel Force to Force Drain. We approached the initial phase more or less the same as we did in the Law and Chaos routes, but this time that's not where the fight ends.
Oh! Wait.
Oh.
Oh!
Following the world's recreation, a new dot will eventually appear. And soon after, the gods will rise up to claim the throne.
Once his hit points drop to 0 for the first time, he'll enter the Demi-Fiend portion of the fight. That's not a joke. This fight sees Lucifer straight up plagiarizing Demi-Fiend's unique options from Nocturne. Gaia Rage, Magma Axis, which now deals random target piercing fire damage, Deadly Fury, Wild Dance, and of course Fraikuga. Complete with animations, believe it or not.
There's another phase. There's gotta be another phase. Oh no. Oh, he does it too! Are we dead? We're not dead!
Okay, he got the Nocturne version, it's fine.
He also swaps Cold Dark Matter for Hot Dark Matter, which, despite sounding like a porn title, actually maximizes his attack, and Holy Crucifixion, which minimizes yours. You know, thinking about it, this iteration of Lucifer seems to take a lot of notes from Nocturne Hard Type. In Hard Type, Magma Axis treats Repel and Drain as null, and can stack with Pierce to be a Fire type for a Kugel, so to speak. And Root of Evil gave you -4 to all of your stats, kind of like Holy Crucifixion. It's neat to consider the idea that maybe they took notes from a mod. Anyway, not unlike the Demi-Fiend, this presents Lucifer with a new problem. Physical immunity shutting down an extremely large portion of his kit. In fact, with Null Physical, the only options he has that do anything are Fraikuga, Magma Axis, and Wild Dance, and Wild Dance just gets shut down by Beelzebub's affinities. Plus, he doesn't go for Fraikuga all that often, though Magma Axis is another story. However, being at level 90 compared to the level 99 Shiva required us to be, we're able to do a pretty significant amount of damage to him, and with a bit of luck, can easily get out of this phase of the fight. The next phase of the fight starts, and he basically returns to his standard rotation, albeit with a couple of upgrades. All of his standard elemental attacks have been upgraded to be much stronger, complete with unique names. However, you can all take your hands off your drinks because none of them pierce. Most of this isn't any scarier than what we already did last time. In fact, it's actually easier. Once he starts summoning stars again, he will summon the Morning Star, which makes him weak to all 4 of the basic elements, but if the star remains at the end of the turn, he will instantly wipe your entire party. Thankfully, the Morning Star doesn't seem to have any more health than the others, so we deal with it just like every other star. After what we went through with Shiva, this should be a cakewalk.
And thus, we have completed Shin Megami Tensei V without using any demons. This was an entire year's worth of effort from us, from when we picked up the game on release to a year and 2 months later, and it was one of the most fun projects we ever did for the channel. Plus, it's nice to finally have a challenge up that was one of the Let's Plays you all watched us do, and moreover, one that we got to write and voice together. But we showed that it is in fact possible to beat the entirety of this game without using New Game Plus, and without using a single party member.
But Robin, what about the Demi-Fiend?
Okay, about that. So, it's no secret Demi-Fiend is possible solo. Fellow SMT challenge runner and self-proclaimed masochist, ZEUS proved that on his channel. Speaking of, go check him out. Not only was he Oberon in my DDS2 video, but we also used his video as a reference for our own run.
Mostly for Chernobog.
Definitely for Chernobog. However, the main problem with Demi-Fiend is that his trigger for using Gaia Rage is different than it is in Digital Devil Saga.
In DDS1, Demi-Fiend uses Gaia Rage in response to Pixie or Parvati using Dormina. In this game, however, he uses it in response to you failing to kill one of his allies within 6 turns. This means his enrage is now tied to something we can't actually control. We would have to kill one of his demons every 6 turns while still somehow managing to deal damage to him at the same time. How many hits by Mutabarion does it take to bring down Pixie, his weakest demon, by attacking only her weakness? 6. This means we would need to deal 6 hits over 6 turns while also making sure we are healing off the onslaught of the absolute hardest hitting enemies in the entire game.
Put simply, we don't have the time or the slots to be able to do that over and over for every single demon Demi-Fiend is going to bring out. Which, by the way, has been expanded from DDS. He still opens on Gira Makala and Cuculain, who are now joined by Pixie. But following them is now Cerberus, who is followed by Thor, then Jack Frost, before finally returning to the DDS crew with Parvati. Eventually, Demi-Fiend will use Gaia Rage, which does so much damage it's all but a guaranteed instant kill.
Although, all but is doing some significantly heavy lifting here. Unlike most SMT games, SMT 5 does have a defined defense stat. No, it's not level, but vitality. The more vitality you have, the less damage you take. So while Gaia Rage does around 26,000 damage, it is theoretically possible to have enough vitality to survive Gaia Rage. How much vitality is that exactly?
Well, according to ZEUS, 400. 400 vitality gets Gaia Rage down to a livable 300-ish damage. So we just need to have roughly 400 vitality. The easiest way to do this would be, of course, to replay the game over and over to farm every single renewable source of vitality bombs over and over and over and over. Isn't there a way we can do this now?
Well, technically, yes. You see, essences aren't the only thing that demons can give you whenever they level up. Every time you level up, a demon has a random chance to give you an item. The item it gives you are based on its affinity type, which is usually what you would expect that demon to be, though there are some outliers, like Artemis, who is apparently an ice demon. However, this is actually good for us since ice affinity demons have a very slim chance to drop vitality bombs. I know the wiki says they drop strength bombs, but it's lying. I've tested this myself many times. This means that we can theoretically farm vitality bombs by adding every single ice affinity demons into our stock, turning on the Mitama DLC, and using grimoires over and over.
As such, it is possible to achieve 400 vitality without using New Game Plus, and depending on your luck, you can do it in significantly less time. However, that's the kicker. It depends on your luck. We've had times where one run of demons spat out 5 vitality over the course of 20 minutes. We've also had times where we spend 12 hours grinding and get nothing. Consider that every 10 hours could be a full loop of the game, grabbing 6 bombs from Artemis's quest, 3 from specified drops, 1 for beating Trumpeter, and optionally 7 for collecting every Memin. Even if it's 17 hours per loop including the Memin grind, that's 1 bomb per hour. You can grossly exceed that, or you can get screwed. If you wanted to optimize it, you could do both at the same time, but can you beat the Demi-Fiend on a new game save file without using any demons? Yes, absolutely, if you're willing to grind. Are we going to beat the Demi-Fiend on a new game save file without using any demons? Fuck that. Vengeance drops tomorrow.
Still, we beat the entire proper game. You ready to do it again?
Thank you all for coming, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Hey, so we're gonna be streaming a blind no demons run of Shin Megami Tensei V Vengeance tomorrow. So if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss it. If you didn't like this video, a plague will befall your house. Tangentially related, special shout out to YouTube members Fabrizio Pignataro, Not D Wadler, Oplin2, and Ryoko Strifer, as well as Patreon backers Axel Rosenberg, Dylan Toomey, Hound, Sokekion, T, Cuddlefish, Gracemi, and Kirara. Thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you tomorrow.